is the NBA on NBC. The 1996 NBA Finals.
It is a beautiful 65-degree day in the Pacific Northwest as you look at the new Key Arena located in downtown Seattle. This capacity crowd of better than 17,000 is hoping their Sonics can get back into the series after losing the first two games on the road. It's the Chicago Bulls and the Seattle Sonics in Game 3 of their best of 7 NBA Final Series. Hi, everybody. I'm Marv Albert along with Matt Dukas and Bill Walton. And, Bill, the major concern of the Sonics, the fact that their all-star point guard, Gary Payton, just has not done it in games 1 and 2. What do you look for tonight from Payton?
Marv, Seattle's making this just way too complicated, and because of it, Gary Payton has been a non-factor offensively. Late in Game 2, Gary Payton had a terrific look, wide open with the game on the line, and he barely drew iron. The frustration's so very evident. He's their dominant offensive weapon. He carried them through the Western Conference playoffs, but in the finals, he's been virtually non-existent. Now, the strength of Gary Payton is his competitiveness, and the decision not to put Gary, the Defensive Player of the Year, on Michael Jordan has totally taken Payton out of his game. He needs to ride the fans, Marv, their emotional lift, and have a breakout game against Jordan.
And, Matt, it's clear in the first two games of this series, the Sonics' major emphasis has been in the direction of Michael Jordan.
Seattle's strategy has been to double-team Michael Jordan. Easier said than done. He is too quick and too alert. In the post, Jordan knows help is coming. He feels the double-team coming from the top, but escapes with a hard spin to the baseline. No weak side help and no chance. Then with Detlef Schrempf on Michael, Percy Hawkins comes to double. Then Gary Payton makes it a triple team, and all fail to keep him out of the middle. The draw dish to Pippen for one of his 8 assists in Game 2. Now this production would be outstanding for anybody else, but Michael is not satisfied at all. You get the feeling that Michael is due for a monster game before this series is over.
Well, they are pumped here in Seattle, ready for Game 3 when we come back. Figures to be a wild scene for the introduction of the starting lineups.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Miller Lite. With a great taste of an ice-cold Miller Lite, life is good. By Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. And by MasterCard. It's smart money.
We welcome you back to the Key Arena in Seattle. And they are standing and cheering for the Seattle Supersonics, who are 44-5 here at home, including the playoffs, and that also includes a victory over the Chicago Bulls last November. We're set for the introduction of the starting lineups. Let's go to the public address and Jim Gracie.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Key Arena at Seattle Center for Game 3 of the 1996 NBA Finals between the Chicago Bulls and your Seattle Supersonics. And now, ladies and gentlemen, today's starting lineups. First of all, for the visiting Chicago Bulls. A 6'6" forward from North Carolina, number 23, Michael Jordan. A 6'11" guard from Croatia, number 7, Toni Kukoc. A 7'2" center from New Mexico, number 13, Luke Longley. A 6'7" forward from Central Arkansas, number 33, Scottie Pippen. And a 6'6" forward from Southeastern Oklahoma State, number 91, Dennis Rodman. And the head coach of the Chicago Bulls,
This crowd is ready, as are our Ahmad Rashad and Hannah Storm. We have reports from both. Let's start with Ahmad.
All right, thanks, Mark. First, a change in the Chicago Bulls starting lineup. Tony Kukoc will start for Ron Harper, who will not start because of a sore left knee, but although he will be available. Now, in Game 2, Michael Jordan and Gary Payton finally got together for a little on-court conversation. Now, while it was very animated, Michael told me it was still friendly. He said he was welcoming Gary to his home and reminding him that they had no chance of winning there in his house. Now, Gary reciprocated by saying, well, on Sunday, you got to come to our place and things will change. Now, Michael told me that he doesn't like having these kind of conversations on the court. He'd rather let his playing do his talking, and he feels like he struggled the first 2 games, and now it's time to have one of those statement games. For more on it, Seattle side of it, let's go down and at it.
Well, Michael Jordan is still the Sonics' priority on defense. Sean Kemp told me today that during their practice yesterday, they worked on defensive adjustments on Dennis Rodman, who killed them with 11 offensive rebounds in Game 2. He said that during crunch time, instead of rotating off Rodman, they're going to treat him like a shooter. They're going to designate a defender to box him out. That defender's either going to be Sam Perkins, Frank Rakowski, or perhaps even the strong and quick Vincent Askew. It will not, however, be Sean Kemp, creating some potentially strange matchups in certain situations. Kemp said the main thing they emphasize, being aware of Rodman at all times, even though he may not be a scorer, recognizing that he is a formidable force on offense. Marv?
All right, Hannah. And as we saw prior to Game 7 of the Seattle-Utah series, the Sonics have added what can be labeled a new twist in revving up the crowd. Well, boxing ring announcer Michael Buffer making the trip to Seattle, but, you know, he might want to consider switching to the decaf latte. The officials, Dick Pavetta, Steve Javy, and Hugh Evans. A reminder that the Sonics and the Bulls are well aware of only 2 teams in the history of the NBA have been able to come back from an 0-2 deficit. Bill's Portland team did it in 1977 over the Philadelphia 76ers. Boston did it in 1969 against the Los Angeles Lakers.
Seattle's got to have a great start today to give these fans some hope and keep them cheering. Plus, they have to attack and execute on the offensive end, fight through the fatigue.
And the Bulls say they are ready for this emotional onslaught from this crowd. They know the Bulls, that is, cannot ease into this ballgame. Seattle is starting to gain some confidence.
It is Irvin Johnson and Luke Longley on the opening tip, and taken by the Bulls. Tony Kukoc in the starting lineup for Ron Harper, as Ahmad mentioned, because of the left knee bothering Harper, but he is expected to see action. Jordan going at Hawkins to the fadeaway. Rodman missed the tip. Longley missed. And Payton came up with the loose ball. So the Sonics to the offense for the first time, and it is Jordan guarding Payton. Shrimp played by Kukoc. Backs him in and feeds to Kemp. Rodman with the rebound. Dennis coming off the 20-rebound performance in Game 2. Longley. Well, Chicago had missed its last 12 shots. That figure dating back to game number 2. And Luke Longley scores for the Bulls. Longley knocked it away. And a a foul is called.
Well, Luke Longley got off to such a terrific start in game one. A lot of it was because Irvin Johnson was looking to help other people out. Here, a terrific defensive play by Longley to first strip and then hold his position against Sean Kemp.
And a bad pass, so the Sonics give it right back.
Sean Kemp jumping in the air to pass. Cardinal sin in basketball. I don't see what Luke Longley did to deserve that foul. He stood totally still.
Here is Kukoc. Well, Michael Jordan had a little chat with Tony Kukoc during the course of game two and felt that he was a bit on the passive side. We recall he was tentative, held back in taking shots. And again, the ball to the Bulls, a traveling violation. And Tony Kukoc took some big shots in the third quarter, and as he did in game number one, helped to turn things around. Pippen able to save that backdoor pass. Here is Jordan for three.
The Bulls continue their terrific ball movement, and I like the fact that Michael Jordan is guarding Gary Payton here. He is not going to let Gary Payton get off.
Well, Payton does get it off and hit. What are you saying, Bill?
Timing.
Right in your face, Walton. You're next.
Bulls 7 and the Sonics 2. The Bulls able to get off to the quick start. Jordan setting up Longley. Yes. Talking to the Bulls prior to tonight's game, they're all concerned about the energy lift that this crowd would provide Seattle. Well, they took care of that with the fast start.
Well, Chicago looked sluggish and slow of foot in game two. Much, much quicker here to start game three.
Sam Perkins getting set to come on. Early substitution.
George Karl not giving anybody a chance to play as Jordan will drain this three. You can just see, as Ahmad was pointing out, the focus, the determination, and the fact that he's guarding Gary Payton.
Trent got the step. Open shot for Perkins. And it's Rodman with the rebound.
George Karl yanks Irvin Johnson, who did nothing right or nothing wrong, but in a couple minutes, what do you expect? And then they give Sam Perkins a shot too early.
Here comes Trent. Hawkins. Payton from deep in the corner. Rodman for Jordan. 2-on-1 development. The lead for Kukoc. Stopped by Hawkins. And a jump ball. Good play by Percy Hawkins. Hugh Evans called a jump ball, but the outside official, Dick Bavetta, has called a foul on Hawkins.
Well, Michael Jordan and Tony Kukoc continue to have a little bit of discussion. I think Michael was disappointed that Tony could not catch and finish on that lob, but he didn't have his steps right. His timing was off, so all he had to do is he made sure he kept possession of the basketball. That was the smart thing.
Pippen got the step and puts home the putback.
It's always funny because a great player. Oh, they're going to call a foul on Rodman in the transition game. Not a foul, excuse me.
Now they do indicate a foul call. It is on Rodman, and a timeout is taken with 8:29 remaining in the first quarter. The Bulls with an 11-2 advantage. Although the Bulls won game two on Friday night in Chicago, Michael Jordan was not pleased with his own play or with the play of his teammates, and we talked about that earlier with Michael.
Well, I thought we were not preparing ourselves appropriately for the games, mentally. I think Phil and the coaching staff have done a heck of a job in trying to get us prepared for the game strategically, but I think what we have to do is consume all that and then go out there and execute it properly. And we got to have the right mental preparation to do such. And I felt we were, because at home, taking things a little bit for granted, a little lightly, and it showed in the first half.
Well, it has not appeared to be the case here at the start. Gary Payton has come out firing away. You just saw that air ball from deep in the right-hand corner.
He's taken lots of shots, but those shots have got to go in. Seattle 0 for 3 from behind the line, continuing a disturbing trend as Jordan making that statement game, going at who's ever guarding him.
Well, whatever the Bulls did yesterday at practice and what they talked about today, they are moving their bodies and moving the ball. The offense is crisp.
You mentioned the disturbing trend as Kemp was able to get position inside. The disturbing trend from three-point land. They are now 8 for 34 from downtown in this series.
Well, that's been the focus of Chicago's defense throughout the playoffs against every team. They do not want to give open looks to anybody.
Tony Kukoc with a beautiful move. He's hit 2 of 3. And the Bulls are up 15-4. Another bad pass. The sloppy play by Seattle continues.
Assist-to-turnover ratio, we talked about it at the open. Plus, you get this sense that this is like Game 3. Chicago at Orlando, that 20-point victory. Chicago came out and played perfect basketball, particularly from the defensive end.
Backdoor lead for Longley, who blew the layup. And here's Kemp. Offensive foul. It's a charge on Kemp.
Well, Dennis Rodman saw that one coming from about 30 feet away, and he couldn't believe it. Sean Kemp just kept coming and coming and coming. He was standing there waiting forever. The offensive charge.
Another turnover. And twice now, Jordan at the offensive end has thrown loud passes. Once to Kukoc, once to Longley. I don't know if they work on those in their native Yugoslavia and in Australia. They need more television sets over there.
Hill turning very, very cruel here.
Well, that's how you learn the game, Marv, is as a kid watching the games.
We may see Michael curb those lob passes the rest of the way.
Throw them to Scotty and Rodman.
Illegal defense was just called for the first time against Seattle. Here's Kukoc for 3. Well, Phil Jackson forced to go with Tony Kukoc as the starter because of the knee problem suffered by Ron Harper, and Kukoc has come out on fire. 3 of 4, 7 points. 18-4 Chicago lead. Shrimp for 3. Did not hit the rim.
Very poor offensive execution. It's not the kind of start that Seattle needed. Chicago is playing perfect.
And here's Pippen drawing the foul.
Well, all season long, when Tony Kukoc has had the opportunity to start, he has delivered. In all of his statistics, much, much better. He's always been comfortable as a starter. You can see it in his eyes in this one. I think Seattle came out in this ballgame maybe relying too much on the emotion of the crowd in this building, and they have yet to settle down and just do not know where they want to go at the offensive end. Very haphazard.
It is now Chicago 19 and Seattle 4. Percy Hawkins trying to put the move on Tony Kukoc. Sean Kemp. And the Sonics are now rushing shots. Longley with the pick.
Oh, beautiful pass.
And the Bulls showing their usual superb ball movement. Jordan, the tip by Pippen. What an effort to get to the ball.
Marv, Chicago's tipping a lot with great positioning, but they bring those down and just try to go up with them again rather than very difficult tips which aren't falling right now.
Well, the crowd wanted a foul. Hersey Hawkins challenging Luke Longley. It will be Seattle ball, 17 on the shot clock. Shrimp.
I thought the Sonics had a notion early in this game. They wanted to go at Kukoc with strength. They went a couple of times. Detlef didn't take the shot, but there's a mismatch there. They looked at the tape of the game the other day. Tony Kukoc has trouble guarding anybody.
Longley. Try to bank it. Kemp on the rebound. Hawkins, 3-on-1. Payton for Perkins. Nicely done. And that gets the crowd going. The Bulls with a 19-8 lead. Delay of game warning with the Sonics batting the ball away following this.
Well, the 3-on-1 set up by Michael Jordan, gambling just over midcourt, going for the steal, and Tony Kukoc had to feel like Custer there.
And the Bulls call for time. 4:50 remaining in the first quarter.
Key Arena, where the Bulls have an early lead on the Sonics, 19-8. An animated Seattle huddle. Nate McMillan, the injured co-captain of this team, trying to pump up his teammates, saying, you're reacting to the situation. You're thinking too much. You've just got to play and let this game come to you. Sam Perkins telling his teammates, we're rushing, we're forcing shots, and we've got to stop doing that. And then George Karl telling them to take care of things on the defensive end and get into the regular rotation. Start it with the defense. Ahmad?
All right, Hannah, the story on Ron Harper, he irritated his knee the last couple of days in practice and came out today in the pregame warm-ups, and it was really bothering him, so he wasn't able to start. He's been in the back riding a bicycle, trying to stretch it out, trying to get ready to play. He's back on the bench now and appears that he may be able to play. We'll keep you posted, Marv.
All right, thanks, Ahmad. Here's Jordan as we resume. Hacked by Hawkins. Steve Kerr has come on for the first time. Percy Hawkins picking up the foul, his second.
Michael Jordan works that weak side post on the triple post offense so well. He gets the isolation, something that Phil Jackson's trying to get him into quickly. The slap on the wrist. You know that Ron Harper's got to be in a tremendous amount of pain because Harper is one of the toughest guys in this league, Marv. He plays through injuries so many times. It's got to be killing him and Nate McMillan that they can't be out here.
And Hawkins sits down, replaced by Vincent Askew. George Karl is looking for a lift from Askew, who has been getting the minutes off the bench in 2 games, but only 1 of 5, and he's turned it over 5 times. Sonics try to break. Payton got the roll, and it's the Bulls 21-10 over Seattle.
The first time in this series that the Sonics have attacked that full court trap after a free throw, and they get a terrific look and finish.
The lead for Jordan, and he misses the layup, but Longley is able to convert. What's going on here?
A terrific pass by Rodman. They read that backdoor play perfectly. What mental communication. Thing of beauty to watch.
Bulls 23, Sonics 10. Shrep for 3. And last touch by Kemp.
Hannah was right on it. Seattle is confused. They're trying to do too much, trying to think too much. Keep it simple, play basic basketball like the Bulls.
And you see the rebounding advantage again for Chicago. We are seeing the best spurt of basketball that the Bulls have shown over the first 2 games and a quarter. Here's Longley getting inside. Nice move by Luke Longley, and the Bulls now lead 25-10. It has not been impressive for the Bulls, although they did win the first 2 games. Steve Kerr said the other day the Bulls have actually played only 3.5 good games in the entire playoffs.
It's nice that they set such a high standard for themselves. That's one of the reasons they've dominated basketball this year.
Kemp able to save it. Shot clock is rolled down to 3. Down to 1. And it is a 24-second violation. What a defensive sequence by the Bulls.
But Seattle's forwards on the offensive end are really giving them nothing. These are their creative forces, Kemp and Detlef Schrempf. These guys are jumping in the air to throw wild passes, not making good, strong, authoritative moves to the hoop.
3 minutes to go in this first quarter. Here's Kerr from way downtown. His shooting has been off in this series.
Well, Steve has been unable to make him from the new 3-point line. He's moved further back. Feels he can maybe get his touch again.
Perkins off the head fake. Sam Perkins with a strong move. Bulls 25. And the Sonics 12.
Longley unable to control Perkins. Perkins is left-handed, Luke.
Jordan. Yes. 9 points for Jordan. He's hit 3 of 7. Not seeing many stops at the other end of the court as Chicago goes to the offense. They have been scoring at will in this first quarter.
It's a classic example of just what great offense does to a very good defense. One of the top-rated defenses in the NBA, Seattle, this year.
And a 3 for Jordan. That gives him 12. Bulls lead 30-12.
Now the Chicago Bulls respect the defense of Seattle. I think that's why they came out. They knew they would be tough in this building. That's why they have come out. They spaced the floor beautifully and passing the ball and making their shots to a team.
The steal by Jordan leading to the breakaway by Pippen. Oh, the Bulls are just eating up the Sonics in this opening quarter with 1:35 remaining. It's the Bulls 32 and the Sonics 12. 22nd timeout called by Seattle.
Michael Jordan hits the three-point shot and then comes right back on the defensive end on the advancement of Seattle's offensive possession. The look-away pass and Scotty off to the races, and you have to wonder if Chicago was just toying with Seattle back in the Windy City.
Well, a 20-point lead for the Chicago Bulls with 1:35 remaining in this first quarter. The largest lead at the end of the first quarter in the history of the NBA Finals. 20-point lead by the Lakers over the New York Knicks back May 6th, 1970. That was game number 6 of that best-of-7, followed up by the long-remembered Willis Reed appearance in Game 7 back at Madison Square Garden, leading to the victory in the series by the Knicks over the Lakers. Pippen on a lead for Rodman. And the onslaught continues.
And no excuse for that on the part of Seattle. Just very poor transition defense. And plenty of time to get back and cover up in the lane.
We're approaching 1 minute left in this first quarter. Trent, reverse, able to recover. And the Bulls now lead 34-14. Ron Harper is on the floor for the first time. Did not start because of the knee problem. Michael Jordan sitting out here in the final minute and a half of the first quarter. So Harper and Kerr at the guards. Kukoc, Pippen and Rodman up front. Kukoc forcing. And Payton in the open floor. Hit from behind by Kukoc.
Well, every opportunity that the Bulls get to run, they will. Whether it's a steal, whether it's a rebound, the outlet pass of Scottie Pippen getting out, getting the lead pass from Kerr, and attacking the defense, and just Dennis Rodman sneaking in on that right side, even though Pippen jumped in the air, plenty of time to find the open man Rodman.
The Bulls get out of their offense when Jordan goes to the bench. Scottie's got to take a more assertive role.
Perkins able to save that pass, nearly thrown away by Askew, and a foul committed by Kukoc, his second.
Plus, when Luke Longley was in, he did a good job staying in front of that basket, forcing the Sonics to the perimeter game. Longley goes to the bench, and Sonics having some success at the hoop.
Sam Perkins at the line with the Bulls over the limit. Sam coming off a 5 for 10 shooting performance, 13 points in game 2. Now Jordan returns. Harper sits down.
Don't know if Harper's going to be able to give much today. He looked a little gimpy out there, Marv.
Seconds remaining in the quarter. 18-point Chicago lead. And the Bulls holding for a final shot. Down to 5. Jordan putting moves on Askew. 1 second remaining. Well, Askew played him well. So the Chicago Bulls in command after 1. They are up 34-16. Tony Kukoc providing a lift in the starting lineup at 3 of 5, 7 points, 12 for Michael Jordan. We'll be back in Seattle right after these messages.
This is the NBA on NBC, the 1996 NBA Finals.
Well, the Bulls with a 34-16 lead on the Sonics as we head to the second quarter here in Seattle. Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam on hand. He was at the 2 games in Chicago, a native of Seattle, although has ties to Dennis Rodman. And there's Kenny G, who did a terrific job with the anthem prior to the game, although Bill Matt was disappointed. He thought Kenny G would sing the anthem. A little confused about it.
Kenny is a regular Sonics fan. Played the national anthem the opening night here, but the Sonics are shooting themselves in the foot here. They got 6 turnovers. They're 0 for 6 from behind the line. They've given up 6 offensive rebounds. They're down 18 points.
Well, George Karl was telling us on Showtime that he thinks it's mental, not physical. It may be a bit of both here in the first half.
Well, the Bulls have brought their A game in that first quarter.
And it's now Chicago 34 and Seattle 18. Bill Wennington on the floor for the first time. Jordan with Pippen, Kukoc, Wennington, and Rodman. Shot clock at 6. Jordan got the step, rejected by Kemp. Sean Kemp came over and made the block.
Jordan is very frustrated. Just 2 seconds on the shot clock. He is playing so well. His teammates, Kukoc, not keeping up with Michael Jordan today, and he's frustrated about it.
All right, Jordan. Will it count? No. 24-second violation.
Well, Dick Bavetta, the trail official, having a look at this, but so difficult to hear. You see the shot clock on the left part of your screen. Very, very close. Michael Jordan in his inner ear, he felt it was good. But Bill, you have gotten the matchup that you have wanted so far in this series. Payton and Jordan finally matched up.
And that was the first turnover committed by the Bulls. Foul on Wennington.
I just don't understand why Seattle waits for game 3 to get it going.
Or to get behind by 16.
Absolutely.
Askew, Hawkins, Perkins, and Kemp on the floor for George Karl. Here's Payton for 3. They cannot hit the 3-point shot. They have missed their last 14 from 3-point range.
And that one didn't have a chance. It didn't look good at all.
Wennington run into by Askew.
And right away now, Michael realized that he is being defended by Payton. He is just going to run to the low blocks on either side and try to be the post man in this triangle offense and try to get inside as much as possible. Not that Payton is much smaller, but Jordan's certainly stronger than Gary Payton inside.
And you recall they got involved in a heated exchange during the fourth quarter on Friday night. Jordan said it was just conversation. He said he can't get in my head, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to let me get in his head. Jordan said to this point, that is a standoff. Kukoc. Oh, what a move by Jordan, but not able to hit.
Just watching Jordan and getting in up close to his face and seeing the defensive effort.
Askew with the floater. And the Sonics showing some signs. They are now down by 14.
But Jordan's presence just so inspirational.
And the crowd very much back into it. Will Evans calls the foul on Gary Payton. 8-0 run by Seattle.
And right away, Michael wanting to take that weak side post position against Payton, and Payton battles hard. This is why he is the defensive player of the year, and really, that was not a foul. That was just good, hard, tough post defense. If that were two big men, they wouldn't have blown the whistle.
And the battle continues between Jordan and Payton. Jordan turned it over, picked off by Hawkins, who was blocked by Pippen for the foul on Scottie Pippen.
And Michael is forcing things a little bit right now. He wants to take it to Gary Payton in every opportunity.
Timeout taken by Phil Jackson. 2:04 gone by in the second.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Plymouth. One clever idea after another. That's Plymouth. By Microsoft. Where do you want to go today? And by Dr. Pepper and your local Dr. Pepper bottler. Dr. Pepper is just what the doctor ordered.
We welcome you back to the Pacific Northwest as you look at Dennis Rodman, who a moment ago was hit with a technical foul for what is termed unsportsmanlike conduct.
Well, I should say Dennis Rodman giving the two-hand disgusted wave towards referee Steve Javie. And that is automatic. We saw it in game one with Joe Crawford. As soon as you put those two hands up and wave in that fashion, you don't even have to say anything. That's an automatic technical.
And Dennis is trying to explain to Coach Phil Jackson, I didn't do anything, Coach. Absolutely nothing. There's no way you can show up the referees. Dennis clearly at fault there.
Percy Hawkins converting on the technical. Once again, Dennis Rodman called for an early technical foul. Back in game one, that led to the Frank Burkowski-Dennis Rodman controversy.
And Burkowski has not been a factor since. George Karl refused to give him a chance to play. And Burkowski can be a positive contributor for this Sonic team.
Well, the Bulls have led by as many as 22. Payton with the back-in move on Randy Brown, who just came on following the timeout. Brown extending the knee and was called for the foul. So a 9-0 run by the Sonics.
A good move by Phil Jackson, though, to get Brown in there to watch Payton for a while. I think he sensed that Michael Jordan was trying to do too many different things once Michael will settle down a little bit.
Here's the double on Kemp.
Jumping to pass.
And Askew, as a result, lost it. A host of turnovers in this first half by Seattle. The Bulls have missed their last 5 field goal attempts. Pippen getting the good position. Got clock at 6. Travel call.
Scottie Pippen was hammered inside. The non-call led to the scramble play in the perimeter and the confusion for the Bulls.
Payton again working on Brown. Payton lost his balance. Payton, oh, what a sequence for Gary Payton.
Well, Gary Payton operates so well when he gets the ball down low on the left side. That's one of the things that Ron Harper has kept him from doing it. Brown puts good pressure on, but he shouldn't let him get that deep.
But look at the size differential that Randy Brown gives up.
Weddington going glass. And now Steve Javie with a call. Maybe a double foul here. Yes, it is. A double. It's on Kemp. And Rodman.
And Rodman getting a break there, and Sean Kemp can't believe anything was called against him. He was just boxing out, a push and a shove from Dennis Rodman. And very quickly, Michael Jordan got right into the face of Dennis Rodman and told him, cool it right now. You've already got the one technical, and this was very close here. On the weak side, Rodman and Kemp battling for position. And you see there, Rodman clearly the instigator. Kemp just trying to hold his arm up and box out Rodman.
And now Sean Kemp has 2 fouls when he was not involved in that play at all, and he has to go to the bench.
Rodman also sits down after collecting his second. Shrimp for Askew. And and it's a charge. Offensive foul. Vincent Askew trying to make things happen. His offense off, although he's not noted as an offensive player, but with the injury suffered by Nate McMillan, they're looking for a bit more from Askew.
Marv, Askew is pump faking that three-point shot. He hadn't even taken one. That pump fake doesn't work. Make another swing pass rather than try to create off an ineffective pump fake as Kukoc is in the lineup.
Turnovers a problem for Seattle all season long. Yes, they force them, but they kick it away too many times. 9 turnovers already in this first half.
Shot clock at 5. Brown for 3. Randy Brown, who does not think shot first, able to hit from 3-point land.
So much of that is coaching, bringing the guys off the bench like Kerr and Bushler. They make so much of the Chicago bench, but really, these are all guys who nobody really wanted. Much the way Orlando has a bench that nobody wanted, but Chicago, through Phil Jackson, they just have such great ball movement. Everybody willing to give it up because they know, because of Jordan's leadership, he'll give it right back.
Randy Brown on that last foul. How about Brown during the regular season? 1 for 11 from downtown and just hit the 3 here in the NBA Finals. 16-point Chicago lead. Shot clock down to 5. Perkins on the rebound. And the officials check with each other. The ruling last touch by Brown of the Bulls.
Phil Jackson up the sideline arguing for a double dribble on Sam Perkins, but it was not an intentional dribble, the first bobble of the ball. George Karl wants a timeout.
7:09 remaining in this first half. The Bulls 39, the Sonics 23. This is not a good stat line for the Sonics. This includes tonight in the first half. They have picked up 41 assists, a low number, and they've turned it over 43 times.
Well, it all speaks to their execution on offense. Not enough ball movement, not good passing, and consequently, you're not going to shoot the ball very well. But the Sonics have had problems with turning the ball over all season long. That man, Sean Kemp, averaging 4 turnovers a game throughout the season.
He's got 3 tonight, as does Askew. Kemp averaging over 30 points a game in this series. He's got 2 points this afternoon.
Seattle had only 10 assists in the game on Friday night. Payton able to chase it down. Shrep eluding Bushler, who just came on. That left Shrep with his 3rd field goal. He has 6 points. And the Bulls now lead 39-25. Chicago is led by as many as 22. They came storming out to quiet this crowd. The crowd getting back into it with the good play by the Sonics, who were able to run off 9 straight points. Kukoc will go to the line as he was hit.
This is just another example of what I would call careless defense. Yes, it's the way Seattle plays, but let's watch Detlef Schrempf first. Having to shake off the challenge shot there. Got a good look at the basket, as Detlef Schrempf is going to have to do a lot more of that. But at the other end, ball goes inside to Luke Longley, and Gary Payton just gambles and comes over and double teams, and then leaves his other defenders out of sorts underneath the basket. You just can't do that.
Matt, Chicago is the best offensive team in basketball this year by the numbers, but they stick with their patterns. You always sense, well, we know this is coming because they're going to post up a guy, they're going to flash off. Seattle is too much of a scramble.
Off the pressure defense, a foul on Bushler. Bulls over the foul limit. 6.5 minutes remaining in this first half. You see Frank Burkowski getting set to check in. Dennis Rodman has been sitting it out, as has Sean Kemp after they picked up the double foul. Kemp is now back on the floor. Sean Kemp very quiet in this first half. 1 of 3 from the field. So Burkowski checks in, and here's his good friend Dennis Rodman getting set to return.
Now the courage of Phil Jackson right now. With Dennis Rodman already 1 technical, a couple of personal fouls. A volatile situation could develop, but I think Phil trying to show Dennis that he trusts him.
41. And the Sonics 27.
Coaches have to show trust in their players. That's why Phil Jackson is the coach of the year and the best coach in the NBA today.
Phil, are you on the take here? Not that I would disagree with that, but you are pushing Phil right.
Look what he does with this team. I mean, Luke Longley, nobody wanted him. Steve Kerr, nobody wanted here. Randy Brown, Bushler. He's taken all these guys. They learn from Jordan. They learn from Pippen. And they get an unbelievable team here that thinks basketball as a unit.
Oh, I'm not disputing it, but I think this is about the 5th time it's been mentioned.
And I would say that nobody wanted the players that you mentioned. It's just that they found their niche with this particular ball club.
Luke Longley with a nice move as Rodman and Burkowski became entangled. Luke Longley with a terrific start. 5 of 8 from the field. 10 points. Bulls lead by 16. Schrempf for 3. And Rodman with the rebound. So the Sonics 0 for the last 15 from three-point range. Jordan got caught. Oh, Michael Jordan with a couple of miscues here in the first half. Oh, nice pass from Payton. Detlef Schrempf with 10. And Chicago's lead is now 14.
More and more plays like that will get Seattle right back into this game and into this series.
Kerr, yes. Steve Kerr with his first field goal coming into today. 1 of 11 from the field the first 2 games of the series. And coming off a superb shooting performance against Orlando. Detlef Schrempf, a different player here in the first half.
Well, he's manhandling Judd Bushler right now in the low post, but Detlef Schrempf can do that to various sizes and shapes of players.
Timeout taken by the Bulls. 4:45 remaining in the first half. The Bulls by 14.
As we return to Key Arena in Seattle, here's what's coming up on the Prudential Halftime Report. We'll bring you more of Jim Gray's interview with Dennis Rodman, one of the best rebounders in history. He won his 5th consecutive rebounding title this season. We'll also get the thoughts of Julius Erving and Peter Vesey on the first half of the Bulls and Sonics. Chicago has been great so far, building a 14-point lead. Let's go back courtside to rejoin Marv Albert, Matt Dukas, and Bill Walton. Marv.
Thank you, Bob. And the Bulls have been able to do it despite the fact that Michael Jordan only 4 of 12 from the field, and he has missed his last 4. He's also turned it over uncharacteristically on 2 occasions. They double up on Jordan. Kukoc. And back comes Payton. And Schrempf took his eye off the pass, looking for the shot.
Mark, Gary Payton has a careless habit of giving up that ball in transition on the flow in the mid-court area. I think that's a bad mistake.
Pippen is blocked, and then Schrempf. Burkowski, but with the strip, but threw it away. Now single coverage with Hawkins on Jordan, who goes right at him, and is fouled.
And you mentioned Jordan's performance, Mark, but it was his start that set the tempo, that got him out to that 20-point lead, and they've just been sort of hanging on right now, just sort of trying to keep the status quo, maybe get to halftime with a good solid lead, and then come out in the third and just really hammer down again. That seems to be Michael Jordan and the Bulls' approach today.
Well, Michael had his free throw shooting problems in game 2, just 10 for 16. And he is well aware that every time that he drives to the basket, there is going to be some kind of a hard foul. Talking to him before the game, I asked if it was borderline of some of these maybe flagrant fouls. He said no. He said they are clean, hard fouls, and we expect them. We got to be ready to take them.
You saw John Sally check in. So Sally with Longley. Kukoc up front, Pippen and Jordan in the backcourt. 16-point Chicago lead. Shawn Kemp, who has been quiet seal the double team. Here is Shrimp. Burkowski. And knocked out of bounds. And a foul call on Burkowski. As Burkowski commits his second personal.
A wild offensive sequence for Seattle where they're really just throwing it up there. They need to get better shots. You drive in there, you draw the defense, and then you kick out to somebody who's standing at the foul line or the three-point line. Burkowski unable to get it going.
And Burkowski sitting down. Jordan now with 15 points. The Bulls 48. And the Sonics 31. And this game 3 of the best-of-7 NBA Final Series. Game 4 here in Seattle Wednesday night. 9 o'clock start Eastern Time. 6 out on the West Coast. 3.5 remaining in the first half. Sally on Perkins. Kemp around Longley. And fouled by Longley.
Well, Sean Kemp is so confident when he goes into a one-on-one situation against Luke Longley, whether it's close to the basket, whether it's on the perimeter. He knows he can put the ball on the deck and get in there and create some contact from Luke Longley, and that was just a careless foul by Luke as he reached in.
Sean Kemp with just 1 field goal, 1 of 3 at the line. Kemp has been the offense for the Sonics' first 2 games, 29 points. And in game 2, he had 32 points in game 1. Longley sitting down after picking up his second foul, leaves with 10 points. So the Bulls with a 49-33 lead.
Marv Rodman's been in and out of the lineup so much tonight, almost like on a yo-yo there. Impossible for him to get a rhythm for the ball on the boards.
Kukoc able to save it. Pippen resets. Shot clock down to 4. And it will be Seattle back in possession.
Well, if you're George Karl, you're just hoping in these last 3 minutes that you can close this gap, get it to around 10 or 12, so you have something positive to talk about during halftime.
Back comes Kukoc. Again, it's Payton on Jordan. Sally, played by Kemp. Jordan, yes, nicely done on the setup from Kukoc.
Marv, they just keep moving all the time. When one guy has the ball, they're not standing watching.
And there's nothing passive about Tony Kukoc here in the first half. Sean Kemp, 6 points now for Kemp. The Bulls 51, the Sonics 35.
Marv, Tony's one of those guys who responds to the challenge. A very competitive guy, even though a quiet personality. Harper out, he knows it's his day.
And Michael Jordan picking it up. He has 20 points. The Bulls by 18.
Well, Tony knows he's playing with a lot of fellas out there who have a lot of championship rings, and he's got a few European championships of his own, so that's a good lineup.
Offensive foul. That's 3 on Kemp.
Sean Kemp working for low post position, just nails John Sally with an elbow in the head. The referee's right on top of it. Digging in deep there, Sean Kemp leans right in. And that initial elbow from the left side, right to John Sally, who does know how to respond once that whistle blows.
And Kemp sits down. David Wingate comes on for the first time. Jordan being guarded by Wingate. Shoots over him. Yes. Oh, Michael is on fire now. 23 for Jordan. 3-pointer for Michael Jordan. And it is now a 21-point lead for the Bulls. They have led by as many as 22. Foul was called on Sally.
It wasn't too long ago we were saying Michael Jordan, maybe he's trying to do a little too much. Well, hey, he's doing it. Inside, outside, everywhere, as he is really feeling it right now like nobody can cover him.
When we were talking to him before the game today, you could just feel that intensity just coming out, oozing out, if you will. This is a very special person.
But of most significance, Michael telling us that he would like to play golf tomorrow, and the only way he could do it under his terms would be if the Bulls win today and Phil Jackson gives the club the day off from practice. And we said that might be your greatest motivation, and he did not disagree.
Well, even if they don't have any time off from practice, the sun stays up so long in this town. 9:15 last night. It was still shining.
Matt looking out the window with the watch in his hand.
I wrote it in my diary.
That must live in the southern hemisphere.
Bulls with a 56-37 lead. Jordan. Yes. Michael Jordan with 25. He is now 8 for 16. And the Bulls lead 58-37.
Marv, it all comes down to style for the Bulls right now. Everything coming off passing. The few occasions it does break down a little bit, Jordan always there to bail him out.
Foul is called. Sally took down Perkins. Michael Jordan has hit his last 4 shots, 25 points in this first half.
I was saying how the Sonics would like to go into halftime, maybe down 10 or 12. Well, it's gone the other way, now to 21. And with all the ideas to double-team Michael Jordan, probably the best time would have been to do it these last couple of minutes. Now, yes, he's out on the perimeter, and you don't want to run crazy double-teaming, but when he is this hot, you must run at him and get the ball out of his hands.
Sam Perkins, 4 for 4 at the line.
Well, I don't think the problem has been so much on the defensive end for Seattle. I mean, nobody's really going to stop Michael Jordan. The problem is offense. They got 37 points playing at home. They come out in the opening quarter, stink it up. They get 16 points.
And Jordan is headed back to the line, fouled by Wingate. Well, Bill, the Sonics are now 14 of 32, shooting 43%. The Bulls are at 51% shooting, 22 out of 43.
All the talk has been about the big start, the home crowd. They come on flat, Bulls playing perfect, and now the crowd is sitting on their hands here in a half-hearted attempt to distract Michael with some deflated balloons behind the basket.
Yeah, really bothersome.
A 20-second timeout has been called by
Those 12 turnovers by Seattle, many of them forced by the Chicago Bulls defense, something they do very, very well. Some of those turnovers of the careless variety.
We are down to 50 seconds remaining in this first half, and the Bulls now lead 59-38 as they look to make it 3-0 in this best of 7. The Sonics will need a dramatic turnaround in the second half. Michael Jordan with 26 points. He has hit on 8 of 16 from the field. He has converted his last 4 shots. Incidentally, the record for the NBA Finals most points in a finals half, 35, which is held by, yes, Michael Jordan. Game 1 against Portland in 92. Another look at the move by Jordan a moment ago that led to the foul called on Wingate.
Well, David Wingate and Michael have had their confrontation so far in the 2.5 games of this series. That was just a fly pattern after the made free throw, but David Wingate maybe has some long fingernails there as he got the neck and chin of Michael, the side of the arm. Michael was checking all over the place to see where he was cut on this play. Michael would have been a pretty darn good wide receiver.
It's the Bulls 60, the Sonics 38.
Matt, don't encourage him. The last guy that did that, he went and played baseball for a while.
Perkins, and by Sally. Lead pass for Schrempf waved off for an illegal defense call.
On Judd Bushler, who was on the weak side, trying to help out as that double team came about. He was just in no man's land, trying to zone up and protect, and got caught.
That was the first illegal defense against Chicago. Seattle was hit with one earlier. About a half-minute left in this opening half. Hayden wanted to use the pick, but Perkins was moving with him. Here's Wingate. Rebounded by Pippen. And the Bulls will hold for a final shot of this first half as we come up on 10 seconds to go. Here's Pippen. Yes, and it counts. Well, a symbolic finisher to a first half that has been just splendid for the Chicago Bulls.
It has been a clinic for Chicago. Every aspect. Jordan, Pippen, the big guys are playing their game. Dennis Rodman celebrating.
And one, he said.
And refereeing.
Yes.
Something different.
Well, they did miss a free throw.
Final seconds of the half. Biggest lead of the night. Enjoyed by Chicago. Bushler with the steal. A 24-point lead for the Bulls, who are seeking to go 3 up in this best of 7. Michael Jordan leading the way, 27 points, 15 in the second quarter. We'll be back in a moment with Bob Costas and the Prudential halftime report.
This is the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by Prudential. Live well, make a flag, be your own rock.
Halftime of Game 3 at Key Arena with the Bulls leading the Sonics 62-38. Chicago led by 22 late in the first quarter. Seattle rallied, cut it in half, got to within 11, but now at the half they're down by 24. And Michael Jordan, who scored 28 in Game 1 and 29 in Game 2, already has 27 in this first half. Bob Costas back along with Dr. J and Peter Vesey, and we'll talk about the first half in our next segment. But first, to Dennis Rodman once again. He had a quiet first half on the backboards, grabbing 5 rebounds, and he scored just 2 points. He also picked up a technical foul in the second quarter for unsportsmanlike conduct, but he was the key figure in Game 2 with 20 rebounds. And after that game, he spoke with Jim Gray.
Aside from all of the tattoos and the earrings and so forth, are you a basketball purist? Do you care a lot about the game?
I care a lot about the game, you know. I get a lot of people saying, well, Dennis is making a mockery out of the NBA. It's not all about making a mockery out of the NBA. It's all about being an individual that's playing in this game. You know, I don't need to make a mockery because this business is too big for one individual to try to bring it down.
What made you decide to show all of this individualism? You were a very successful player in Detroit, yet you didn't seem to get much of the limelight or the credit. Was the rest of this simply designed as a marketing aspect, and do you view this almost like all-star wrestling?
Now, this is not marketing. You don't market stuff like this. People in society don't like what I have, but the only reason why they liked it is because of who I am. I'm a basketball player.
Can you explain the phenomenon that you have become, people stopping on the freeway with the billboard of your hair, kids emulating you, changing the color of their hair? Can you explain why you have become so popular?
I think that people see it as an entertainment. They see someone out there say, wow, that's the guy with the red hair. That's the guy with the multicolored hair. The chameleon. That's going to be my new name, the chameleon.
Not the one.
Not the one, the chameleon. And kids relate to that. It's fun. It's not dangerous to anybody. And kids can go home, they can play in their little watercolors and things like that. And it's all about having a good time, and the kids can feed off of it.
But aren't you concerned that it could send the wrong message?
It's not sending the wrong message, because that's what family. You know, they could deliver the message. Well, that guy that has funny hair, but he's a good guy. He's a good guy, and they see me on TV. They see that I love my daughter. That's the most important thing to me, and that's the bottom line. It's all about trying to make kids out to be something that they're not.
Would you want kids to emulate you?
I just want them to enjoy me, to feel the emotion, to feel the excitement, the thrill, and the agony, what I go through in a game. And I think they feel that because I reach out to the people I like to have all the DNAs, all the 22,544 people that come in this building, DNA inside me. And then when I'm out there performing, I want them to feel it. I want them to feel the bumps and bruises. I want them to feel get the rebound. I want to feel everything.
Are you content? Are you happy with yourself and what you've become?
I'm happy in a sense where I know I can control everything around me now. I know that I can provide entertainment for myself instead of worry about people coming to entertain Dennis Rodman. I know the value of life, the value of people and things that's going to happen before and after. So I think that's really getting Dennis Rodman over today.
Does basketball matter to you? Being a good basketball player and having respect?
It's not big. I don't give a damn if I'm the best basketball player in the world. I just want to fit in and be one of the 12 players on the floor. That's all. Just one of 12.
There were some people who will hear this who think that's disingenuous, that's not honest.
Well, if they think they don't give a damn about basketball, why am I playing? Why am I out there doing my job? Why am I out there winning basketball games? Why am I being so productive? Why am I out there busting my ass every night to do something that no one wants to do? If I didn't give a damn about basketball, I'd just go out there and just be just like any other average basketball player. But I'm being productive. At 35 years old, I play like I'm 20 years old, and I'm having a great time.
Rodman flopped it into a flagrant foul. And that they have Dennis Rodman, who cheats all over the court.
Yeah, some very sincere respect. What is your response to that?
It's unfortunate that it has to be that way. You know, he asked me a question that he asked me a couple years ago, do you want to play for Seattle? I said, great, yeah, be awesome. You know, but, you know, I think now it's all about head games. And I play that better than anybody in this business. And I can get over because I know that I'm a lot more mentally strong, physically strong, and go out there and do what I have to do.
Well, the Bulls in general are doing what they have to do. We go to Peter Vesey. Your take on Rodman.
Well, we all know that you win championships in the NBA with strong defense, rebounding, psychological warfare. We know Game 1 turned around when Frank Burkowski got thrown out after getting into an altercation with Rodman. Rodman dominated Game 2. And we know that in the history of this game, the only guys that have been able to dominate a game or a series without scoring a point are Magic Johnson, Bill Russell, and Dennis Rodman. I'm not saying Rodman's confident or overconfident, but he's already measured his navel for a ring.
Well, let's leave. Very nice. Let's leave the off-court persona aside for a moment, which is probably just as well. You admire the way he does it on his own terms on the court.
Absolutely, Bob. You know, I think Dennis is very clever with the amount of moxie that he has in his game. He psychologically and physically neutralizes his opponents. I think he's been able to silence his critics, his detractors, and all of the skeptics. And when you add the fact that he has so much athleticism and talent, you know, this guy is just a complete package that night in and night out on the court, you have to have respect for him.
Okay, when we come back, we'll talk about the first half of the Bulls and Sonics. Try to think of enough superlatives. Chicago up by 24, but first a message from Prudential and a word from the NBA. The Bulls lead the Sonics at the half in Game 3, 62-38. Pick a highlight. It was all red and black in the first half, and this is really what Seattle had to fear. They had a chance to win at least one in Chicago because the Bulls did not play anywhere near their full capability in the first 2 games, and still they escaped with a couple of victories. They come out completely in sync tonight.
Well, the Bulls definitely came out in sync. Michael Jordan is leading the charge, and this is just a great Bulls team. If you look at the Sonics, they have been a team during the regular season and early in the playoffs who has been able to overcome huge deficits. But I don't think this is quite the same Sonics team that started out that 7-game series against the Jazz. I think the Jazz took a lot out of them, but that doesn't discount Chicago's greatness. They truly are right up there with the best of all time.
Well, in fact, for whatever it's worth, among the 11 defeats this year for the Bulls, including one in the playoffs, the biggest lead they relinquished in any of those games was 16 points here against Seattle back in November. But this is a whole different situation.
No, you definitely. I think the fat scalper here in Seattle is already singing discount for Game 4. With all due respect to Michael and the Jordanaires, I believe that Phil Jackson and his coaching staff deserve the MVP for this series. For every series, they've been able to designate which player is not going to beat them and which player is going to take the open shot. Every opponent has had to adjust to them, and I don't know why that happens. They're doing a hell of a job.
Well, Chicago at home simply won games. Tonight, they're making their statement. Now a couple of coaching notes. Johnny Davis, who was an assistant coach in Portland this past year, will be named the new head coach in Philadelphia tomorrow. And Peter Vesey tells us that Milwaukee has narrowed its coaching search to former Celtics coach Chris Ford or former Raptors coach Brendan Malone. And one other note, immediately following tonight's Game 3 on CNBC, we'll bring you a half-hour post-game special. Our entire crew will be here with interviews and analysis on CNBC right after this game. Halftime in Seattle. The Bulls lead the Sonics by 24. Back to Marv, Matt, and Bill after these messages from your local station.
This has been the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by Prudential. Live well, make a plan, be your own rock.
Back in Seattle, the Bulls with a 24-point lead over the Seattle Sonics. Let's check in with Hannah Storm, who is with Sonic coach George Karl. Hannah?
George, what do you think happened to your team in the first half, and what do you tell them here at halftime?
Well, I think right now we just got to play and get back to trying to play with some confidence. You know, we broke apart. We got hit with a great defensive effort early, and then Michael Jordan's great performance. I mean, they played a great half on us, but we got to play back and just compete and get back to getting some confidence in the game.
Are they confident right now, or are they destroyed? I mean, do you think they have enough left to get back in this game?
Well, this team's always fought all year and has a lot of pride. I think you're going to see us fight.
Okay, good luck in the second half, Coach. Mark?
All right, thank you, Hannah. Matt, if you're in the Chicago locker room, where I know you would prefer to be at this point, what does Phil Jackson tell his club?
Well, he's going to be serious with his team. He's going to say, we can't relax. We can't be complacent. We got this lead because we respected this Seattle ball club. We executed well. We defended well.
All right, Bill, what can Seattle do here in the second half?
Oh, gee, thanks a lot, Mark, for that opportunity. They have to play for pride right now and try to keep together all the good things that Seattle has done this year. It's been a great year, but not a good first half at all. They're in a lot of trouble.
All right, a look at the Miller Lite halftime statistics, and you can see why Seattle is in trouble. Chicago, 23 of 44, 52% from the field. Seattle at 14 of 33, and Michael Jordan with 27 on 8 of 16 shooting. 3-point field goal, Chicago 5 of 8. Seattle in the midst of a drought right throughout the series from 3-point territory. 0 for 8 tonight, and Peyton just 8 points in the first half. We'll be back in Seattle in a moment. We are back at the Key Arena, which has been kept relatively quiet in this first half by this commanding Chicago lead. Let's check in with Ahmad Rashad. Ahmad?
All right, thanks, Mark. Excuse me, Dick. I'm trying to do a reporting. Phil Jackson, unlike in Game 2, didn't have much to say to his team at halftime, but he did say that the second half will mean nothing if they can't pick up where they left off in the first half. Also, to be wary of Seattle coming out and pressing. Marv?
Oh, that official Dick Pavetta is such a wacky guy, isn't he? He'll do anything for on-camera time.
Seattle starting Frank Brakowski in the second half, not going with Irvin Johnson, who's been the starter. Maybe Frank Brakowski can give him something from the perimeter as the Sonics really struggle from downtown.
Longley comes out, followed by Brakowski. Shot clock is down at 2. Here is Longley. Luke Longley with 12 points, and the Bulls now lead 64-38.
Marv, remember what Michael was telling us before the game about how he was lecturing Luke about when you get popped in the eye like that, take those 5 stitches. You got to come out and show him that you're not going to allow that to happen anymore. Longley's done it with his game today.
Took an inadvertent elbow from Sean Kemp. And actually wanted to leave, and Phil Jackson was saying, no, you play through it. You stay on the floor. But, of course, with the blood dripping down, he was forced to leave. And Jordan was upset because he felt that Longley was just too low-key about taking that shot. And that is another Seattle turnover. It is turnover number 13.
And Michael Jordan slipped and fell into one of our cameramen on that last play and just went over to make sure that he was all right as Michael went hard to the floor.
But that was a terrible pass by Gary Payton. Well behind Frank Brakowski on the dead run.
Kukoc from 3. Longley tried to punch it on the back tap, but carried out of bounds.
Well, Michael Jordan with that, what has now become the patented get up in the air fadeaway shot, just kept fading all the way back and all over our NBC cameraman.
Crowd trying to urge on the Sonics. Kemp fouled by Longley. That's 3 on Luke Longley. No team in the history of the NBA Finals has ever come back from more than 21 down at the half to win. The Sonics trailing by 24 at halftime. That's the biggest comeback victory in the history of the Finals. Baltimore beat Philadelphia back in April of 1948, coming back from a 21-point deficit. Bulls now lead 64-40.
Sorry, I don't have anything more to give you on that Baltimore-Philly game in 48, Marv.
Well, I know Matt can fill us in on that one.
Freddie Scolari in the backcourt for the Baltimore Bullets. I knew that.
Did you coach him, too?
Very good.
Good defense by the Sonics. Pippen. And it's a 24-second violation. The basket will not count. Pippen just tossed it up looking to hit the rim, and Rodman trying to save it. And now there's a discussion. Rodman is applauding the call. Perhaps they are changing the call. Steve Javie, Hugh Evans, Dick Bavetta talking about whether that should be a 24-second violation. If not, the basket would count. So tough because they have to visualize the replay in their mind.
Of course, not allowed to use television replays.
There is no 24-second violation because the ball hits the ring.
We'll get the ruling. Here's another look at it.
Has the ball. The whistle blows, and it
yes, it did graze the rim. So the basket does not count, but they'll see how they reset the clock. They'll put some time back up.
Well, they'd have to give him a full 24 because the ball did hit the rim.
And a good ruling by the officials as the shot clock sounded and the whistle blew, just everybody basically stopped other than the alert Dennis Rodman.
And there again was Sean Kemp unable to keep Dennis Rodman off the board. Hannah was talking about that's what they did all day yesterday in practice. Interesting how they wait until before game 3 to realize he had to block Dennis Rodman off.
Brakowski trying to tie up Longley. Jordan rebounded by Brakowski, and he nearly threw it away. Hawkins eluding Jordan, who picks up the foul. That is his first.
I've always loved it, Marv, when these great players like Jordan and Barkley and Bird and Magic, who are so involved in every play, and finally, midway through the second half, oh, there's their first foul.
Brakowski just leveled Rodman a 3 for Hersey Hawkins. But Dennis made a bit more out of it, though, as he went to the floor. 3 minutes gone by in the third quarter. Bulls by
Here, Dennis Rodman and Brokowski getting all tangled up. And Dennis, with a flop there, just taking a little bump from Brokowski.
I don't know, a forearm to the throat.
Hawkins is fouled.
Chicago has to be careful because Seattle has come out as the aggressors in this half. That'll get the crowd back into it. And once that crowd gets going, it is impossible to get them back in their seats. Chicago, not really a single good play in the opening 3.5 minutes of the third.
Foul on Pippen. Percy Hawkins this evening. That is only his 5th point. Here's Steve Kerr replacing Tony Kukoc. Tony Kukoc providing a lift for the Bulls in the first half. Start of the game because Ron Harper is bothered by a knee problem. Kukoc with 9 points. So the Bulls now lead 64-45, pressure by the Sonics. And Longley is able to bring it across.
One of the reasons for Kerr is that he is expert against the trapping, pressing defenses that Seattle's going to throw on the rest of this game.
Longley. And Jordan able to keep it alive at 24 for the Bulls. Jordan fouled. Brokowski with the reps on Michael Jordan. Frank Brokowski involved, picking up his 3rd personal.
And Brokowski and Rodman having some extracurricular talk there. Michael Jordan once again quickly getting over to Rodman and pulling him away.
Well, the crowd here in Seattle very much back into it, with the Sonics chipping away but still trailing by 19. Travel called on Longley.
Well, you can also tell from the talk of George Karl in that halftime saying, hey, guys, we got to let it all go right here. Frank Brokowski, if you can get somebody involved, do it. Sean Kemp, you have to start getting physically involved in this ball game.
7-0 run by the Sonics. Bulls have led by as many as 26. Trap. Rebounded by Longley. Crowd wanted a traveling violation on Longley.
Well, that's the kind of offensive play that's typified Seattle all day. Trying to beat a guy, a great defensive player, one-on-one, going to your left with a fadeaway jumper.
And here's a fadeaway jumper by Rodman. It is a 3-second violation call on Sean Kemp.
This is the kind of Seattle defense that I think everybody in this building, and I know we expected at the start of this game. Very physical, very grabby, clutchy, and just get into the chest and into the face of the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls never let them get into that early in the first quarter.
Yes, the Sonics swarming defensively here in the third. And they've cut into that Bulls lead. Again a whistle, 3 seconds against Chicago.
And the call by Steve Jabby over on the weak side. Probably could have called something else there as Rodman and Brokowski get all tangled up. And then the 3-second violation.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Bud Light, official sponsor of the 1996 Olympic Summer Games. Make it a Bud Light. By Oldsmobile and your authorized Aurora retailers. And by Reebok. Are you prepared to say, this is my planet?
Well, Seattle's defense has gotten serious here at the start of the third quarter, challenging every pass, every shot, and here's Sean Kemp popping Rodman in the chest, and as they get all tangled up, something could have been called there of a foul nature, but the official wisely called the 3-second violation. You should be happy with that call.
Well, Dennis Rodman has to be very careful. This is where he usually has his problems. When they're way up, the game is not in the balance. And where was this physical response from Seattle early on in this series?
Well, the Bulls have not scored in 4.5 minutes. They've been outscored here in the third, 7-2. Kemp had it excellently knocked away by Payton, able to recover and hit. The Bulls 64 and the Sonics 47, 6.5 remaining in the third quarter. Bulls in this third quarter turned it over 3 times, only 1 of 7 from the field. Make it 1 of the last 8.
So difficult for a team with a huge lead to come out with that edge and that sharpness. Very dangerous for Chicago as they're in danger of losing this entire lead.
All right, Pippen with the rebound on the Shred miss. Well, the Bulls with a magnificent first half, probably their best of the playoff run. Rodman able to keep it alive, and now lost it. Payton with the steal. Hawkins for 3. They just cannot hit from downtown, and it leads to this. A fast break bucket by Jordan.
And George Karl has been saying, if we don't make threes, we cannot win. What a beautiful play by Steve Kerr to start that 2-on-1 break.
Kemp with the spin move, but had nowhere to go. Brikowski for 3, and he is able to hit. A three-pointer for Brikowski. And the Bulls now lead 66-50. So Seattle 2 of 12 from downtown.
That's Brikowski's offensive game. Feed off the penetration, spot up at the line. What a pass, Jordan.
Longley. Tied up by Kemp. Shawn Kemp with a brilliant defensive play.
Well, Luke Longley wisely keep moving, find the open area as Jordan is double teamed, and then Luke Longley trying to do the right thing, take it strong to the basket, but just unable to finish that play off against the bigger, stronger, quicker Seattle defenders.
Was blocked by Brikowski, who is becoming a factor in this third quarter. Foul called on Rodman. That's 3 on Rodman, and the Bulls now with 4:53 to go in this third quarter, leading by 16. A look at the block by Brikowski.
Way too casual by Pippen. Brikowski showing the skills that he has. Spot-up shooter, good interior, rugged defender.
To Brikowski. Nice ball movement. Kukoc off the mark on a three-point attempt. Here comes Payton. He was looking for help and then was hit by Kerr. For the Bulls, their 5th team foul.
Chicago has done nothing in this third quarter. They've come out, they've scored a total of 4 points. They're all standing around thinking that it's over. Now Seattle is just surging, roaring. The crowd is behind them. This is when they play their best, when their backs are against the wall, as they certainly are.
Well, Tony Kukoc took that last jump shot deep in the left corner, felt he was hit on the wrist and arm, and then turned to the official begging for the call. If he had alertly followed his own miss, he would have probably got the rebound, and all of his teammates remind him, don't worry about non-calls, keep playing.
The Sonics have outscored the Bulls 14-4 in the first. It's down to a 14-point lead. Kemp knocked it out of bounds. Nice catch by Cindy Crawford in the front row. And there's Cindy getting herself involved in the game. Wearing the Dennis Rodman hat. Timeout has been called. with 4:18 remaining in the third. The Bulls only 2 of 13 from the field in this third quarter. Well, the NBA and NBC Sports have teamed up and created the official website for the NBA Finals at finals.com. Game previews, player bios, video highlights, the latest news on the Bulls and the Sonics. Plus, during our NBC broadcast of the Finals, fans around the globe can interact with our very own cybercaster, Steve Snapper Jones, busy at work, as you can see. He'll be online with commentary and answering fan questions during the course of the game. Check out the official website of the NBA and NBC Sports at finals.com. 4:15 remaining in this third quarter, and the Bulls now appear to be the team that is rattled. They throw it away, giving the Sonics another opportunity. A Chicago Bulls team that has gone 2 of 13 from the field. They've been outscored 14-4 here in the third, which has usually been their quarter. That's the case in games 1 and 2. Perkins trying to dump it off, but Pippen able to step right into that passing lane.
Marvin Mott was telling us the last time out that Phil Jackson's telling his team to weather the storm. They'll get tired eventually. The problem with that strategy is that these fans won't let them get tired. Ouch, what a wild and horrible shot.
Here comes Payton. Hawkins. And he draws the foul. He was blocked. Foul on Steve Kerr. So the Bulls have scored only 4 points in this third quarter. It's unbelievable with 3:33 remaining in the quarter. Fewest points in a quarter in the NBA Finals, 11. New York Knicks against the Los Angeles Lakers, April 30th, 1972.
Well, the Bulls just have not done enough with their defense to create some fast break opportunities. And then when they have to walk the ball into the front court and try to run their triangle offense, the pressure defense of Seattle has just totally taken them out of the rhythm.
Percy Hawkins, 4 for 4. 8 points for Hawkins. David Whitney with a cameo coming on for Detlef Schrempf. And again, the crowd wild here at Key Arena. Kerr for 3. Bulls 68. The Sonics 54.
Perfect execution of the set offense. Take the ball to one side, double down on the other for Steve Kerr.
Kemp able to get inside. Sean Kemp got off to the slow start. He has now become a factor. He has 12 points.
And Marvin's a very tough matchup. Kukoc trying to keep Kemp away from the basket. He can only hope to get it back on the offensive end.
Chain of defense. Shot clock at 7. Pippen. Oh, beautiful move with a head fake on Hersey Hawkins.
And Phil Jackson and the Chicago bench are wondering why Steve Kerr was not credited with a 3-point shot.
Apparently they did wave it off. Called it a 2. Here's Wingate for 3. David Wingate from downtown. And the Bulls lead 71-59.
Michael Jordan's got to get more assertive. He's got to start calling for that ball and waving his teammates away so he can get to the hoop.
Shot clock at 6. Pippen. Here come the Sonics. Just under 2 minutes to go in the third. Now Payton posted. Facing the double team. The steal by Pippen. Kukoc chased by Perkins. The Bulls with a 73-59 lead.
Well, Steve Kerr in trouble under duress with the post-up of Gary Payton, and his teammates came quickly to his aid and forced the turnover.
Matt, you mentioned the Bulls defense not getting it done. They've upped it. in that low post. Gary Payton, who has tortured all the short guards in the Western Conference, realized he's got Kerr, but the double team just leads to easy fast breaks.
Foul committed by Weddington. And again, Hawkins, one of the NBA's better free throw shooters. At the line, he's 5 for 5 here tonight. 8 points for Hersey, 7 of the 8 in this comebacking third quarter.
Now, when Gary Payton gets in that position with a guy like Steve Carroll, he's got to anticipate double team, and that's where he's got to find his three-point shooters. The only two on the floor right now are Hersey Hawkins and Sam Perkins, but they have to be spotted up and spaced correctly.
A Chicago lead once 24. It's now 12.
I'm surprised Phil Jackson hasn't come back with Dennis Rodman. Maybe he was upset with the fact that Rodman was losing his cool and concentration with the big lead.
And the outside official, Steve Jabby, calling it on Hawkins. Non-shooting foul for the Bulls, their first team foul the last 2 minutes.
I think Phil just does want to weather this storm now and make sure that he has fresh troops for the final 8 minutes of this ball game.
Kukoc watched by Kemp. Wingate is on Jordan. Travel.
Scottie Pippen is really hesitating when he gets that initial pass. Jordan makes the play. They double team him, and when Scottie gets it, he's got to go right away with it. Don't stop and wait, but then you got to start all over again.
Down to 40 seconds remaining in the third. Hawkins got the step. Wingate. Called for travel.
Mark, Seattle's right back in this game. Just down 12. The crowd is on the edge of their seats. You can just hear them, feel them breathing down on your necks here. Their offense has really picked up. This is Seattle's Sonic basketball.
But this is as tough and intense a defense as you'll see all season long from two teams on the same floor.
Bill Wennington with a second field goal. It's the Bulls 75, the Sonics 61. 10 seconds to go in the third quarter. Down to 5. Wingate. And that is it for the third quarter. Seattle outscored Chicago 23-13 to get back into it. Trailing by 24 at the half, trailing by as many as 26. It is now a 14-point game. Bill Wennington with the corner jump a moment ago to extend that Chicago lead. Dennis Rodman sitting out a good portion of this third quarter. We'll be back with the fourth after these messages and a word from your local station.
Copyrighted telecast of the National Basketball Association may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the NBA.
Back at Key Arena in Seattle, Marv Albert, Matt Guokas, Bill Walton, Ahmad Rashad, Hannah Storm, Bob Costas. The entire crew on hand, and we have seen this crowd in a frenzy right throughout the third quarter. The Sonics getting back into it. Chicago shooting only 6 of 19 from the field in the third. Michael Jordan, only 2 points in the third quarter, was not part of the offense, but figures to be a different story here in the fourth. Jordan now with 31.
One of those old UCLA plays, Bill, the UCLA cut, and Michael Jordan able to shed David Wingate and get that open jump shot.
And that play was all over the blackboard in Seattle's locker room. That high post shuffle. When Wennington sets that pick, Kukoc will just dump it right down to him. Sam Perkins too late. The guard, I think, has to go ball side on that play with Jordan particularly, so you can front him down low if he does take that post position.
And a foul on Weddington, a non-shooting affair. Payton putting the spin on Kerr. And Kerr on the loose ball. Foul is called on Payton.
Steve Kerr was not a factor in the first 2 games in Chicago. Gary Payton gets called for this foul here on Dennis Rodman. Just holds him, keeps him from coming up the lane, and then says, who, me? I didn't foul him.
And a technical foul has been called. It's on Payton, who apparently had something else to say in the direction of Steve Javie. It's been a very tough series for Gary Payton. In game 2, he shot only 6 of 15. Game 1, played 47 minutes, only 6 of 17 from the field.
And it's hard to understand what he could possibly be complaining about. He clearly grabbed Dennis Rodman. It was a good call.
Bulls by 17. And Kukoc took the hit. Met by the double team of Shrimp and Wingate. Foul on David Wingate.
And Gary Payton continues to glare at the official Steve Javie, who called the technical foul on him. That will not help his cause one little bit.
Jordan with the pull-up. Yes, and it counts. Foul committed by Wingate. And Jordan to the line. So kind of a restful third quarter for Michael Jordan, who is certainly right back to it.
It just appears as if the Bulls and Michael Jordan can do whatever they want, whenever they want. Seattle comes back, plays their best basketball of the series in the third, and right away, Michael Jordan says, hey, just give me the ball and get out of the way. Jumper in your face.
And hey, Frank Bukowski was not a catalyst by any means, but he did give the Sonics a different look. More physical play and seemed to give the team a lift. I'm a little surprised he's not in there right now.
And this call away from the ball. Rodman with a push on Kemp. That's 4 on Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman, who plays very tough low post defense and has that habit of snapping that neck back. Nobody ever hits him in the face when he does that.
That was not a defensive foul on Dennis Rodman. And another one on Dennis Rodman.
And that's 5 on Rodman. Luke Longley walking over to the scorer's table. He will come on for Rodman.
Rodman and Kemp underneath the basket. Hard to see where that foul is on Dennis Rodman. Sean Kemp initiated everything. This points out the problem that Ron Harper not being available today, just not the regular rotations to keep Kukoc in the front court.
But obviously the Bulls have managed despite that.
It helps when you have Michael Jordan on your team in a lot of different respects.
A 20-point Chicago lead. Kukoc for 3. And Perkins with the box out. Shrimp had to save that lead thrown by Payton. Here's Payton. Gary Payton with 12 points. He's in 5 of 12 from the field. The Bulls now lead by 18.
You see this lineup for the Chicago occasionally with both Longley and Weddington on the floor, but I'm sure it won't be too long before Scottie Pippen re-enters.
Absolutely, because the Bulls are so much better when they go small. But the way Longley is playing today, I'd go with him and make Seattle match up to him, which they have not done.
Well, Longley now has 14 points. Perkins, making the turn, was taken down by Weddington. Here comes Frank Bukowski getting set to check back in. Timeout is called. 9:37 left in the fourth quarter.
Miller, where great taste runs in the family, brings you Miller Moments.
Tonight's Miller Moment took place 11 years ago this evening. The Los Angeles Lakers defeating the Boston Celtics, Game 6 of the finals. to take the 1985 NBA title. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar led the way for the Lakers and was named the series most valuable player. In recognition of that moment, Miller Brewing Company will donate $1,000 to the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. And at 38 years of age, Kareem, the oldest player ever to win the MVP award. That was the 8th time the Lakers met the Celtics in the finals and the first time that they ever beat Boston. 9.5 remaining in the fourth quarter. Game 3 of the NBA Finals. The season very much on the line for the Sonics, who are trailing here by 20 points. The Bulls with a burst at the start to take the energy out of the crowd. Michael Jordan with a sensational first half. The Sonics able to get back into it in the third quarter. But the Bulls have come out strong here in the fourth. And a foul is called against Seattle. The high point man of the game is Michael Jordan. Jordan with 34 points. Sean Kemp just picked up his 4th personal foul, and it will put Luke Longley at the line.
Luke bouncing back very nicely here in Game 3. In Game 2, he had as many stitches as he did points and rebounds combined, 5. But he came out in this first quarter and really made a statement offensively, much as he did in Game 1.
That's not a good day when your stitches outnumber your points and rebounds combined. But that play all set up by Tony Kukoc. Sean Kemp has not shown an ability to contain him on the perimeter. Tony in Game 1 and 2 was critical at the decisive moments. That play again, setting it all up with penetration.
And a knee offered up by Longley. Indication from the official Dick Pavetta. That's 4. On Longley, the Bulls are now over the limit. Luke wanted his interpretation.
Mark, that last offensive sequence for Chicago that Luke Longley ended up getting the shot, that shows how far Luke Longley has come. Career playoff high today. Early in the season, Scottie Pippen never would have dumped that ball off to Luke Longley. I mean, he would throw it to him in the beginning of the game, and Luke would drop it out of bounds or commit an offensive foul. Now, though, after a year with Jordan, he's fully developed.
The Bulls 84 and the Sonics 65. Down to 5 on the 24. Pippen for 3 with 2 seconds remaining on the clock.
And Pippen, as soon as he came off the bench with Rodman going out with 5 fouls, Scottie gets a big rebound, a couple of nice passes, and a huge 3.
Scottie Pippen with 12 points. And Scottie has done it once again in a number of departments. 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Although he has not shot well at 5 for 14.
Marv with the Bulls. Oh, Longley off the penetration again. Kemp can't keep him under control. George Karl needs another timeout.
What a game for Luke Longley. 17 points for the product of Australia. 7:55 to go in the fourth quarter. And the Bulls now lead 89-65. That's Pippen from three-point range with the shot clock running down. We'll be back at the Key Arena in a moment.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. By Prudential, live well, make a plan, be your own rock. And by New Miller Beer, the brand new beer from Miller with big flavor that goes down easy.
We are coming up on 7 p.m. here in the Pacific Northwest with just under 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. A reminder, following our telecast here on NBC, we invite you to tune to CNBC on your cable system for an NBA Finals post-game special. Our entire cast will be on hand to recount the game with highlights. We'll hear from some of the players. You'll see some of the press conferences. as we look back at Game 3 here in Seattle. Rakowski with a second field goal. That's the NBA Finals post-game special immediately following the game on CNBC. The Bulls with an 89-67 lead. Longley. And he was fouled.
Marvin, it's so special to watch this Bull team, which is truly unique in a lot of different ways. But when they pass the ball, when they get rid of the ball, they just keep moving. So many teams stand and watch. So many teams feel that or players, they don't have the ball, they're not doing anything. These guys are always in motion, moving away, setting screens, coming back to the ball. A thing of beauty to watch.
Well, they are the only team in the league that runs this triangle offense to this degree, and with the spacing involved and with all the cuts and with all the backdoor type of passes, it affords all that kind of movement. Luke Longley must love this Key Arena. He had his career high, right. Even though the Bulls had lost that game early in the year, he had a career high in 21.
How about a career move he's got for the Minnesota Timberwolves, where he lost 67 games back in 91-92 to the NBA Finals.
I think he likes Michael Jordan, not so much the Key Arena.
Longley called for that tripping foul that put Gary Payton on the floor.
Well, that's a good foul by Longley. Still sporting the bandage from the 5 stitches. The little guard comes in and sets the screen on you. You can't let that happen.
And here's Dennis Rodman back. So Longley with a playoff career high of 19 points. This game being seen worldwide, but you know they're enjoying it in Luke's native land of Australia, a member of the 1988-1992 Australian Olympic teams. Is certainly his finest moment as a professional. And Jordan fouled by Hawkins, and Rodman and Rakowski getting involved.
And Phil Jackson at the other end of the floor taking a very long look and now whistling to his team out there. He does not want Dennis to do anything that is not going to have him ready for a Game 4. You just have your heart in your throat at all times when they get tangled up. And see, Dennis initiates all that by getting his arms tangled up underneath the other player and then makes it appear that in this case Frank Rakowski is doing the holding.
Once again, with the game not in the balance, a 22-point lead. But these are certainly two of the freest spirits in the NBA. We don't need any sort of altercation here that would take away from this beautiful exhibition of basketball today by the Chicago Bulls.
Now, would this be considered taunting?
I was just going to say, why is that not taunting? Just a look and almost baiting Frank Rakowski to do something. Dennis has to settle down, play basketball, go play golf with Michael Jordan tomorrow and get ready for Game 4.
But if you can't stand there at attention and look at somebody with a blank expression on your face, what are you allowed to do?
I think that was a bit more than right. And a foul on Pippen. That is his third. Bulls are over the foul limit. Coming into this NBA Final Series, all the Bulls were saying that, well, the 72 victory season is certainly wonderful. They're able to roar through the playoff, beating Miami and then New York and Orlando. But it wouldn't mean a thing. They felt it wouldn't mean anything until they, as Michael Jordan put it, completed the picture. And they are now playing for a place in NBA history. And they wanted to come up with an effort here tonight, at least in one of these games, that would be clear-cut, because they have felt that they have not played well against the Sonics, and they have certainly come through here this evening.
Mark, they won't admit it because they don't believe in taunting the opposition, but they had to have a meeting between the key guys and said, hey, look, let's go undefeated during these playoffs. They did lose the one to the Knicks in Game 3.
And a again, Burkowski and Rodman come together, and the officials very quick to move to that scene. Burkowski with number 4.
Rodman flashing to the ball. No need to overplay or try to deny him. Dennis is not looking to swing that sky hook across the middle. Gary Payton doing a lot of trash talking. Needs a little bit more game to back that talk up. Gary Payton coming in as a brilliant player, over 20 points a game. In the series, he's got 40 points total in the series.
That's the story tonight. Jordan 11, 22, 36 points. And Payton only 5 of 13, 14 points, along with 8 assists. You mentioned the playoff run, Bill. Well, the Bulls on their way to making it a record of 14-1 in the playoffs. And Jordan able to box out Kemp.
In traffic, going up with one of the best rebounders in the league, Shawn Kemp. As both Jordan and Pippen, with Rodman in and out of this lineup throughout the game, have both gotten much more involved in the rebounding area, as they tend to do when Dennis is not getting a whole bunch.
Shot clock down to 4. Jordan. And Rodman and Burkowski get involved. It looks like Pavetta has given the ejection sign. This has been brewing the last couple of minutes. I think he's thrown both out of the game. Burkowski ejected, flagrant foul 2. I thought Pavetta indicated that both were tossed. Let's see.
Well, this has been brewing ever since these two have gotten on the floor there, as this time Burkowski does get that forearm and elbow right into the Adam's apple of Dennis Rodman. But George Karl, who was ridiculing Rodman for all the things that he was getting away with after game 1, had nothing but praise for Dennis Rodman after game 2. I think we're going to hear more ridiculing after this one.
Dick Pavetta gave a succession of thumbs, but apparently he was making it clear that it was Burkowski who was gone, and Rodman remains, and now he and Kemp are having words.
Very difficult for George Karl to ridicule the starting power forward, leading rebounder in the series when you're down 3-0.
5:45 remaining in the 4th quarter.
Phil Jackson should do this game a favor, maybe take Rodman out.
Rodman and Kemp coming together, and Kemp picks up number 5. On the other hand, Phil Jackson may be enjoying the fact that Dennis Rodman has gotten into the heads of the Seattle players. And Michael Jordan just came over giving us a look as if to say he's kind of amused by it, but what's going on here?
And Phil Jackson just peeking up at the clock again, wishing this thing would end without getting any further incident from Dennis Rodman. Phil Jackson, I'm sure, has already started thinking about Wednesday, and he knows they'll want to have Dennis Rodman on the floor.
Dennis is quick to point out that he has not thrown a punch in 10 years in this league.
Bulls 96 and the Sonics 70 in a blowout. Sonics did rally, got within 11 with their surge in the 3rd quarter, but the Bulls picked it right back up in the 4th. Payton. We're coming up on 5 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter.
Again, Mark, a nice play by Gary Payton, but just one guy involved. Dribble up the whole way, get in the post. Everybody else standing around watching for Seattle. Here's 3 men involved, and then come back to the weak side.
Kukoc, foul. And he will head to the lines on Perkins.
Bill Wennington checking in. Dennis Rodman very upset that he's the man going to the bench. And I'm sure Phil Jackson will breathe a sigh.
Well, for Dennis, certainly a guy who enjoys the circus atmosphere that he has created. But there's no question that he has bothered the Seattle Supersonics, along with what has taken place on the scoreboard. That is a contributing factor.
It's embarrassing, Marv, to get blown out in your home court. You come back, you wait all these years to get back to the finals. The disappointments the last couple years, first-round playoff losses. They think they got it going. They play Chicago well 2 times and then come back here and lay down.
His best game of this series, very quiet. In games 1 and 2, 16 for Trent. And the Bulls now lead 98-75. The last time the Bulls were here in Seattle was back on November the 26th. And the Sonics beat the Bulls in a come-from-behind effort. That was more than 6 months ago, though. Shot clock down to 1. Bushler. It's a 24.
Well, I wouldn't say the Seattle team laid down in any way, shape, or form. They just got hit by a buzzsaw at the start of this game, the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, and how he likes to assert himself on the road in these playoff situations. He gets, I think, more pleasure out of winning these games on the road than at home.
And Michael will set it out the rest of the way. That's the final numbers, 11 of 23, 36 points. And he was 11 for 11 at the line. Foul committed by Randy Brown. For Michael Jordan, his high game in this series, and certainly feeling much better about things. He was very unhappy, very frustrated, but about the way he played and about the way the club played, although they beat the Sonics in game 2.
And I'm sure it made him feel good and helped the whole ball club by getting after Tony Kukoc about those couple of times where he passed up some shots and jumping on Luke Longley about maybe feeling sorry for himself with those 5 stitches. And I think that definitely picked up those 2 players, and I think it woke the rest of the ball club up as well.
Plus, they've found their rhythm now. They're back to playing every other day now, which is the regular NBA schedule. That long layoff really did hurt them. Nice passing, Scottie Pippen.
And Bill Wennington is 3 for 3. He's given the Bulls a 100-78 lead with 3.5 remaining in this 4th quarter. Game 4 here on Wednesday night. 9 o'clock Eastern time, 6 out in the West. Phil Jackson now has Randy Brown and Doug Bushler on the floor, along with Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, and Bill Wennington.
But Mark, look how it keeps going. The flow is still there. Dribble away, pass back up top, screen away, pass to the weak side, spot up jumper.
And Randy Brown is 2 for 2, including a 3 earlier. He has 5 points. Bulls 102-78 over the Sonics. We mentioned coming into tonight's game that only 2 teams have ever come back from a 2-0 deficit foul on Kukoc to win in the NBA Finals. No one has ever come back from 3-0 to win an NBA Final Series. Timeout called. The Bulls certainly enjoying things. 2:43 remaining in the 4th quarter. And it's Chicago 102 and Seattle 78. And as we were headed to commercial, there was a technical foul called on Detlef Schrempf.
Detlef was fouled on a 3-point jumper a minute or so ago. They didn't call it. The game's over. But he wants to get to that line to shoot his 3 free throws. He's not getting there.
3-point shooting has been a major problem for the Sonics throughout this series, and give the Chicago defense a lot of credit. They have challenged most of them. Obviously, Randy Brown got a piece of the arm on Trent on that one, just going by that reaction. But Chicago probably has figured this kind of defense out more than any other team in the league. They will live with some post-up scoring from a guy like Kemp or a guy like Shaquille O'Neal, but they do not want to let the good 3-point shooters get off and get going and then get other people involved and get second shot opportunities, and it has worked to perfection throughout these playoffs.
But the versatility of the Bulls, Matt, allows them to change that to whoever they're playing against. The reason that you think you have a chance in the post-up game is that's where they have Longley, that's where they have a short power forward in Dennis Rodman and a poor interior defender in Tony Kukoc. You certainly don't think your game is going to be winning by beating Michael Jordan one-on-one on the perimeter.
Wennington, Steve Scheffler, and Eric Snow, seldom used players by the Sonics, have taken the floor. So George Karl emptying his bench in these final minutes, and we have now reached garbage time. I don't know, is that possible in the NBA Finals? I guess it is. 2 minutes to go. The Bulls with a 103-80 lead, on their way to making it 3-0 in this best of 7. Steve Kerr going to the left hand.
Movement without the ball, a thing of beauty.
Shrimp, 105-82. And we're down to a minute and a half to go. This crowd is filing out. They have waited to the last few moments. Bushler able to drill it. This capacity crowd of better than 17,000 staying to the very end, despite the fact that the home team has been rocked solidly. Hawkins on the fake. Percy Hawkins with 12. That left Trent leading the Sonics with 20. Gary Payton with 19, but these numbers are just cosmetic. The Sonics working their way back into it in the third quarters. They came within 11, but the Bulls were able to accelerate once again and recaptured the big lead. Bushler to the line, fouled by Eric Snow, the rookie from Michigan State.
Well, it has been a roller coaster ride for these Seattle fans over the last 3 years. Getting knocked out in the first round, the last couple, and then looking like they had that Utah series well in hand, losing Game 5 here at Key Arena, getting blown out at Salt Lake in Game 6, and then barely hanging on to win Game 7. So this crowd has been tantalized and teased.
Here's Brown, fouled, hit by Snow, and Randy Brown will go to the line. And again, the questions will surface regarding that man, George Karl, who certainly has not been happy about his contract situation.
George Karl did have his contract extended for next year. Would like to have that long-term extension. Of course, Phil Jackson, his contract up at the end of this season. No extension there yet.
Now to a half minute remaining in the fourth quarter. 108-84. Wingate. So the Chicago Bulls in a blowout of the Seattle Sonics. They opened up with a burst, anticipating the high energy from this crowd. And they were able to just take it all out of the Sonics right at the start. Time has run out. The Bulls winning Game 3, 108-86. The Bulls led by Michael Jordan, who finished 11 of 23 from the field, 36 points. And now the Bulls and the Sonics look to game number 4 here in Seattle on Wednesday night. That'll be a 9 o'clock start in the East, 6 o'clock on the West Coast. All right, let's go to Ahmad Rashad with Michael Jordan. Ahmad?
All right, thanks, Marv. Michael, finally a game that you guys can feel some satisfaction with. You won the last 2 games, but really not played very well. Today you played excellent.
Well, I thought we were going to give it away a little bit in the third quarter, but I think the first half we came out and
basically took the crowd out of the game and, you know, took some of their momentum very early. And from that point on, I think we tried to control everything, and we pretty much did. I think when they started making a run at us in the third quarter, we just had to find something to contain them and slow them down because they were coming very hard.
How do you account for that start that you had today? Because in game 2, you guys started, you know, very lethargic, no energy, but not tonight.
Well, as I said, I think when we get on the road, we become a little more focused. You know, we go out and we know what our jobs are, and you know, we don't have to worry about, you know, family tickets and all a lot of distractions that we have to go through, man. It's good to be on the road so we can bond together and play better.
How about your focus? I know in the first couple of games you felt like you were struggling a little bit, but today you came in talking about making a statement.
Well, I know this is the Gloves' home, and, you know, I wasn't going to verbalize, you know, any kind of confrontation with them. You know, I was just going to come out and play and let my basketball do all my talking. And, you know, I know that the crowd can get very hostile, but, you know, me personally, these are the things I like to play at, in the atmosphere that I like to play at. Just come in and focus on basketball and block everything else out.
All right, Michael, thanks a lot. Great game. All right, let's go over to Jim Gray, who is with Dennis Rodman.
All right, thank you very much, Ahmad. Dennis, you came out and you crushed him in the first 10 minutes of the game. Was that the game plan? Michael Jordan said before the game that's what needed to be done.
Well, I look at it like this, you know, all night long I've been saying, you know, I couldn't sleep. I said, we got to get this game. We have to get this game. And Michael, I figured Michael come out and do his job, and the rest of the supporting cast did theirs too.
3-0. No team in NBA history has ever been able to come back from that deficit. Is this one effectively over?
I wouldn't say it's effectively over. I just think that, you know, Seattle have totally got out their rhythm, out their game, because all they're doing now is trying to mess with me, try to get in my head. But they don't understand, though. You can't mess with the master. You can't mess with the master.
Well, there was an awful lot of talk going on between you and Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. What exactly was being said and going on in Bukowski as well?
I think George called just basically bring Bukowski in and try to mess with me. But you got to understand something. It's the difference between trying to come out there and play basketball and be physical and doing your job. And they're not doing that right now. All they're trying to do is trying to be physical. That's not their game.
Will it be a long 3 days for you guys? Is it going to be hard for you to remain concentrated and trying to wrap this thing up?
I didn't play all night tonight, so I'm ready to go tomorrow. And the next day, I'm ready to go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get it over with.
Hello, okay, Dennis, congratulations. Let's go back to Marv Albert.
All right, Jim, you can't mess with the master. We take that away from game number 3. We'll be right back in Seattle after this. Back in Seattle, the Bulls with a 108-86 win over the Sonics to take a 3-0 lead in the NBA Final Series. Some more of the stats. Scottie Pippen, 12 points, 9 assists. Tony Kukoc, who started for the ailing Ron Harper, 14 points, 7 rebounds. Michael Jordan, though, leading the way with 36 points in his 41 minutes. A reminder, coming up next on most of these NBC stations, a special post-game episode of Mad About You. That'll be must-see TV. That is coming up next. Some closing comments from Matt and Bill. What about that Chicago defensive effort right from the start?
Well, Marv, we were talking about it earlier, how good it's been in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, especially throughout all the playoffs. Well, it was excellent in the first quarter, getting off to that big lead, 34-16, and continuing to be harassing defensively and forcing those turnovers, forcing 21 turnovers, as everybody put it together, led, of course, by Michael Jordan.
And as Dennis Rodman pointed out, through some other philosophical thoughts that were mentioned to Jim Gray, the Bulls have just taken the Sonics right out of the rhythm. They're not playing their usual game, except for that period defensively where we saw them swarming all over the court in the third quarter.
But, Marv, that was more of a scramble. Now, Seattle has to remember that they're a very good team that is unfortunately matched up against a truly great team, maybe the greatest team in history. And they have to look at this in the big picture, the long term. Still with young stars, don't lose your poise, don't lose your composure. Try to keep everything together, keep the fans interested and with hope, and then learn from this. Learn, Marv, how hard Michael Jordan has sacrificed to work to get to where he is right now. That's the mission and purpose for Gary Payton and Sean Kemp the rest of the way.
Let's take a look at the scoring totals. The Bulls with a balanced attack. Jordan with the 36. Longley, that is a career playoff high, 8 of 13, an outstanding all-around performance
by the Bulls center Luke Longley, 19 points in all. Tony Kukoc, 4 of 11, 14 points. Scottie Pippen, 5 of 14, did not shoot well, finished with 12, but did other things in terms of rebounding and assists. And as it turns out, you mentioned the fact that the Bulls were slightly out of their rhythm at the start because Kukoc started. Obviously, it did not matter.
Well, Michael Jordan just was perfect today. We could see it in his pregame comments to us, the focus, the energy, the enthusiasm. He was not to be denied today. His mission, one more game, and then it's complete.
All right, so it will be game number 4 for that one more game here on Wednesday night. If the Bulls are able to win it, the Sonics will try to stay alive and hope to force it to a 5th game back here on Friday night. That's it for the game portion of our telecast. Marv Albert with Matt Kukas and Bill Walton. Now let's throw it to Bob Costas upstairs. Bob?
Okay, Marv, thanks a lot. I guess now we can begin calling them the Inevitables, up 3-0. It's only a matter of when they close it out. They have 2 shots at doing it here in Seattle. If Seattle can win 2, obviously they would force a 6th game back in Chicago. That doesn't appear likely at this point, so it appears that if Chicago wins their 4th championship, they will do it for the 3rd time out of those 4 titles on the road. Only once against Portland in 1992 did they finish it on their home floor. They have a mission on Wednesday, not just to win the championship, but to complete the sweep and stake another claim to greatness. The only team that went through the entire playoffs, losing only 1 game, was Dr. J's 1983 Philadelphia 76ers. They didn't play in the first round, so they were 12-1. Chicago could finish at 15-1 if they sweep it. Now, don't forget that coming right up, our NBA Finals postgame special on CNBC. More interviews and analysis in the aftermath of Chicago's devastating win this evening. And on Wednesday night, we have Game 4 of the Finals back here at Key Arena in Seattle. Now, coming up next on NBC, a special postgame episode, it says here, of Mad About You. Will Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt be in the locker rooms? Tune in and find out. For our entire crew in Seattle, I'm Bob Costas. Good night on the NBC side. See you in a few moments if you're so inclined on CNBC. So long.
We now join NBC Sports.
This is the 1996 NBA Finals postgame show. Now your host, Bob Costas.
So the Chicago Bulls are up 3-0, 108-86 over the Sonics here at Key Arena in Game 3. Michael Jordan got 27 of his 36 in the first half. The Sonics made a run late in the second quarter and in the third quarter to get close, but they could never get it inside double digits, and eventually the Bulls prevail, 108-86. Bob Costas back upstairs here with Peter Bessie and Julia Serving. Well, what can you say? The first couple of games the Bulls were able to win, but tonight they just about unveiled the full arsenal.
I think, Bob, that they finally showed who they really are. You know, I was thinking before this game, well, what did Seattle learn in the first 2 games? Do they need to trap a little bit more? In Chicago, they trapped once the press was broken, you know, they just retreated to guard the basket. When they came home to Seattle, would they trap multiple times, a second time, or third time, as they did so often during the season? The Bulls had all that go right out the window because Seattle was cold in the beginning. The Bulls were determined to try to win this game in the first 10 minutes, and I think that's exactly when they won it.
Peter.
I think it's last year's Magic Rockets series all over again. The team that hasn't been there doesn't understand what it takes to get the job done. The Sonics now learning that every possession is meaningful, the fever pitch that it takes, the demonic defense, the precision, the execution, all these things they'll remember if they ever get back here again.
Folks, if you watch the broadcast on NBC, And I assume if you're interested enough to watch a post-game show on CNBC, you probably watched the game itself on NBC. Then you saw plenty with Dennis Rodman. He got the pregame. He got the halftime. Let's give him the hat trick. Here he is on the postgame with Jim Gray.
Thank you very much, Bob Costas. Well, Dennis Rodman, you now go up 3-0. What will go on now in the next 72 hours? It's going to be difficult to concentrate. You're just right there on the edge.
I'm going to watch a lot of game tapes. I'm going to watch a lot of game tapes till the day comes. I'm just ready to go. I'm focused. I'm ready to go. I want to end this now.
How different does this feel than the 2 that you won with the Detroit Pistons?
It feels a lot different because I didn't really appreciate what it means to be appreciated as a world champion. Now it's totally different. Now I know what's going on. I know what it means. And now let's go out there and do it.
Last year, it seems as though with San Antonio, you were a dislikable figure. It seems as though certainly Chicago has taken to you and now the rest of the country. Have you done something consciously to try and earn the respect of everyone?
I haven't done anything. I've just been myself, individual. I can't be like all the rest of these people here and try to be something that I'm not. And, you know, if what you see is what you get. If you don't like it, that's your tough luck. But I'm just trying to go out there and play for the people, make people happy. That's it.
What were you saying to all of the Sonics? You had almost a verbal confrontation with everybody on the team, particularly Brikowski. I
love that. I love to get in people's head. And Charles Carr tried to get in my head. He's a great coach, but he got to understand something. He don't have the guys on the bench that's mentally tough enough to handle what I got to say and do out there. So you better prepare yourself and study for the next 72 hours.
Even Michael gave you a hug. We haven't seen Michael have physical contact with you since you guys won 70 games. What did he say when he put his arm around you?
You know, he said, no one really appreciates what you really bring to this game. And basically, that's all he says. You know, he said, you know, I'm glad you have him on the team, and I'm glad to be here.
Dennis, thanks for taking the time with us. We'll see you on Wednesday night. Back to you, Bob Costas.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. Well, all of us must respect the play of Dennis Rodman on the court, but now I learn that he is something of a Henry David Thoreau figure of the late 20th century in terms of being an icon of individualism, and we're all heartened to learn that. But your thoughts on his play tonight?
Well, my thoughts, period. You know, I don't think the things he does off the court has necessarily any positive social redeeming value, but on the court, he is a force to be reckoned with, and you see the confidence exuding from him now. I don't think that all the Bulls are going to walk around with their chest out, you know, thinking that it's done, even though history says something different. I think they're still going to maintain their modesty and try and respect the Sonics as they've respected every team in the league while they're beating on them.
We're going to hear from Nate McMillan, who spoke with Hannah Storm a moment ago. But before we do, a quick thought here from you.
Well, the Bulls got bumped last year by Orlando. The difference between last year and this year, with the Bulls being one victory away from a championship, is the fact that Michael Jordan came back in shape, had a conditioning program in training camp, and Dennis Rodman. He can't be outworked. He is the presence that they lacked last year on the boards and defensively.
Well, the view from the bench couldn't have been pretty from the perspective of Nate McMillan, who was sidelined by injury and watched in street clothes, and immediately after the game, he spoke with our Hannah Storm. Here it is.
Thanks, Bob. Nate, it seemed as if this game was won from the very beginning by the Chicago Bulls. What happened in the first half that enabled them to get out to that huge run?
Well, I think they just came out and played very aggressive. This team is a very experienced team, and they wanted to make a statement early in the game. And Michael and those guys got off to a very aggressive start. They started Kukoc, which sort of threw us a curve at the beginning of the game and gave them more offensive power. And they just got off to a good start. They shot the ball well. The defense was there, and our shots wasn't falling early in the game.
You've just come out of the locker room. What was said after the game?
Well, the thing is, we have to continue to believe. I think it seems to me that we're giving these guys too much respect. It's sort of difficult to get upset or go out with an attitude against Michael and Scotty and those guys because they're not physical or dirty players. But I think we're giving them a little bit too much respect. You know, we're not bumping and grinding. We're a physical team, and right now we don't have that into our game, and they're out there executing and just picking us apart.
They've done a tremendous job also when you look back on the 3 games neutralizing Gary Payton. How much of that has to do with you being unable to play? How much of that has to do with their defense?
Well, I think it's me all together. You know, with me in the lineup, Gary is free to roam, get up and down the floor. I'm able to run the point, get the ball to him so he can get out into the early offense and just create his shots. But right now, with me out of the game, he has to handle the ball the whole game, and that's taken away from his game. The steals are not there. I looked up, we only had 3 steals, so I help in that way too. But you know, we got to find a way to get our transition going, and right now we don't.
No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. At this point, is there any realistic hope of your doing that, or are you just looking to Game 4 and the pride of this franchise?
Well, there's always hope. You know, we still have a game to go. We have 2 games left here. The thing is, we have to win. We have to win now. You know, that's what it comes down to. We have to win the next game. If we win that one, we have another game in Seattle. But we have to play much more aggressive basketball than we played in the last 3 games.
Okay, Nate McMillan, thanks so much for joining us. And now you wish you could be out there in uniform to help your team out.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Bob?
Okay, Hannah, I guess one way to describe this series for the Sonics, McMillan and strife.
Susan St. James. We should get a bonus for doing something like that.
There you go. You get the feeling, though, that although Nate is an important contributor and he would have changed their substitutions and whatnot, that it really doesn't make that much difference. Well, with all due respect.
Well, I think it made a huge difference in the first 2 games because people are beginning to understand and appreciate what Nate McMillan means to this team. I mean, he mentioned a number of things there. What he didn't mention was the leadership and the 3-pointers. And without him coming off the bench, Sam Perkins basically is a starter with Irvin Johnson getting only a few minutes. The Sonics don't have a bench.
Yeah, let me clarify. I meant tonight. Obviously, the first 2 games were close and could have turned on any number of things.
Well, yeah, I think it made an absolute difference. You know, in game 2, he could have made the difference because it was a close game. The first 2 were blowouts. But if you look at the Chicago situation when they were missing Tony Kukoc, it put so much pressure on Scottie Pippen to handle the ball and do 80% of the playmaking instead of sharing that responsibility with Tony and with Michael that his offensive game suffered, and the Bulls ended up losing that 1 game to the Knicks.
All right, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back on the post-game show, we'll hear from George Karl, from Phil Jackson, from Steve Kerr, and from Spike Lee here in Seattle, where the Sonics could not do the right thing tonight. We'll be back. Back in Seattle, where the Bulls blew out the Sonics, took a 3-0 lead in the series. As you know, Dennis Rodman removes his jersey after each game. And who got it tonight or this late afternoon in Seattle? Let's take a look. Do we have that footage? Cindy Crawford was in attendance at the game. And there she is. The lucky winner of the souvenir, or recipient of the souvenir. Dennis Rodman's road jersey belongs to Cindy Crawford after the Game 3 victory. And now we go to Steve Kerr and his post-game thoughts.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. I'm joined by Steve Kerr. Steve, you just came out of the locker room. What's the feeling back there, just 1 game away from this historic run?
Well, we're pretty happy, but we're trying not to be too happy because we still haven't finished it off. We have 1 more to go, obviously, and it'll be nice to relax for a couple days and then get back at it.
Will these next 3 days drive you crazy, or with the anticipation? Is it going to be a long time coming for this game?
Be a lot longer if we were only up 2-1. I'll tell you that. We would like to play Tuesday, you know, but you know, schedule says Wednesday, and why not enjoy a few days in Seattle?
Did you expect more of a fight tonight from Seattle? I mean, you guys came out in the first 10 minutes, and effectively this game was over.
Well, we've actually felt like we were due to play a good game, and that's kind of the scary thing about our team is we can win when we're not playing well. But offensively, we really haven't played well in the playoffs that often. So we were due, and when Michael came out on fire like that, and all of a sudden Luke's scoring, and Tony starts surprisingly and hits like his first 3 shots, I think, you know, that was a good sign right there. It was going to be a long night for them.
As has been his custom, was it a mistake of Gary Payton to make such a to-do and get in Michael's face?
I wouldn't advise getting in Michael's face to anybody. It was probably a mistake, but that's Gary's game, and you know, he's going to play that way, and that's what usually gets him going. So, you know, you can't blame him for that.
Steve, it seemed as though tonight as well that you guys kind of played off the theatrics of Dennis Rodman, his taunting, if you want to call it that, and his enthusiasm. Was that the case?
Well, we always feed off of Dennis's energy. That's one of his keys to the team, really. He brings defense and rebounding, but also a lot of energy. And he withstood some psychological warfare out there from the Sonics, too. And we thought he did a good job of holding up.
Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, back to you, Bob.
Jim, thanks a lot. Do not go anywhere. We're coming right back to you. Steve Kerr was just 1 for 11 in the first 2 games in Chicago, uncharacteristically off in terms of his shooting, and tonight he comes through with 3 of 4 and a total of 8 points. So that was Steve Kerr on tape with Jim Gray moments ago. Now we go back down to the floor, and here he is live with Luke Longley. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Bob. Luke Longley, 19 points tonight, his playoff career high. In fact, you had your career high back in November, 21 points. What's with you in this building? Seems to bring out the best of you.
I don't know, it does. It's been good to me this year. You know, I'd like to come back here more often.
Michael got after you pretty good in Game 2. Tonight you come out much more aggressively. with much more of an offensive impact. What was it that he said that got you going, and why the production tonight?
Well, it wasn't so much what Michael said that got me going. It was just I was disappointed with game 2. I had a very good game 1 offensively, and just sort of didn't really get in, and never got into game 2. And obviously having Michael spurring you on helps, but you know, it was something that would have happened, I think, otherwise.
It looks like you've been playing a little Australian rules football. Did the stitches the other night make you mad?
Certainly, and that was one of the things that Michael mentioned, was that, you know, I still had a fairly poor game after receiving cut like that. He thinks that should fire me up, so I did, and I played a lot better tonight.
You were much more physical tonight as well. You kind of pushed John Kemp at one point. Was it your intent just to get after it a little bit more tonight?
Yeah, I tried to concentrate a lot harder on Sean and on getting sort of underneath him early in transition, not letting him get those easy baskets, and I think you know, it frustrated him, especially in the first half.
Is there a celebration going on in there, or is it still a bit premature?
No, this team's very good at not having premature celebrations. We didn't just celebrate our Eastern Conference win, but I think we'll have a good one once we win the whole thing, and hopefully that'll be fairly shortly.
Wednesday night.
I hope so. I mean, I think this Seattle team's got a lot of fight left in them, so you know, you never can tell.
All right, Luke, we appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks a lot, mate. Good on you.
All right, back to you, mate Bob.
All right, thank you, Jim, and to you, Luke. Good day. Now let's go to the interview room where Phil Jackson moments ago had these comments for the assembled members of the press. Here's the Bulls coach.
Seattle can play as hard as they did in the third quarter, make things difficult for us, and we've got a road ahead of us to go before we can claim this one.
Phil, it seemed as if in game 1 and 2 you single covered Kemp the way you did O'Neal and Ewing and Mourning before that. And in this game, it seemed like you threw a lot more double teams then, and there was a conscious effort to stop him in this game, because he's the only one that really hurt you in the first 2.
I couldn't see you because of that sport coat in front of you.
Sorry, Phil.
The strategy today was to throw double teams at Sean. He had really hurt us badly in the 2 games in Chicago. We thought that perhaps he would be even better here in the home court, and we tried to get the ball out of his hands early in the game. And it worked simply because they did miss a couple open threes and led us to runouts. We had a couple steals, and I thought he didn't get the kind of looks or shots that he necessarily likes, or get involved in the game the way he likes to do it. Okay.
Do you think that there are teams in this league right now that have any type of mental capacity in these playoffs to understand what playoff basketball is about? And do you think that with Jordan and Pippen and Rodman, you really have a monopoly on that in this league at this time?
You know, that's a grandiose question to answer, and I'd hate to be a pompous ass by answering it and saying that, no, there is no other team. But the thing that's impressive, I think most impressive to a coach like myself about the team that I've been able to coach this year, is the fact that they go on the road and they're a better basketball club on the road. For some reason or other, the resiliency of this basketball club steps up. And that is the true mark of a championship team. And I'll say it, it's happened before. I've seen it happen when the Pistons were a championship team, the Bulls were a championship team in the 90s. And they seem to have a chemical bond that really strengthens their unit.
Phil, you've done a real good job of dealing with Dennis's performance over the year. And you guys were in such control of the game. Why didn't you let it get stupid at the end?
Well, you know, I felt that, Bukowski come out in the third quarter and accomplished what he brings to the game, a very physical, kind of intense scrum activity out there. And Dennis stayed pretty strong throughout that period. But there was a few things that were just too many confrontations. I didn't like what was going on, and I didn't want the game to disintegrate. I don't think it's fair to the game itself to let it disintegrate that way. And Dennis had a little trouble holding his head today, but I thought he did a real good job overall.
Luckily, we had switched from the broadcast to the cable side before Phil Jackson made reference to the possibility of appearing to be a pompous posterior, or words to that effect. Perhaps Phil aware that he was on the more liberal airwaves of CNBC than NBC, but you have words of praise that will play on any broadcast outlet for him, right?
Question? I'll tell you, though, talking about Phil Jackson, he's so far ahead of everybody. The way he and his staff are adjusting. While I take it back, they set the mode, and then everyone has to adjust. And while the Sonics are trying to adjust to Gary Payton being defense, he switches it, and defense is Sean Kemp. So his staff and Phil deserve a lot of credit.
So you don't buy the idea that just because you have the best horses, you can't be the best coaches. Not anybody would have won 72 games, not just anybody with this team.
You've got to be very prepared, and this staff is very prepared, best in the league.
Okay, we're prepared with more interviews. We'll hear from Spike Lee and George Karl, among others, when we come back.
2-8.
So the Bulls win it 108-86, and they can finish the job if they have sweep on their mind on Wednesday back here at Key Arena. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from tonight's Game 3 here in Seattle. Pick it up from the start. Ron Harper, normally a starter, with a sore knee. Tony Kukoc opens instead. No matter, Chicago gets off quickly. Michael connecting for 3 of his 12 in the first quarter. Bulls score the first 7 of the game. Kukoc coming off strong back-to-back games in Chicago. Hits the tray here. Chicago up 18-4. The Sonics committed 13 turnovers in the first half compared to just 5 for the Bulls, and it cost them. Scottie Pippen will take it the length of the floor here. Chicago by 18 after 1 quarter. On to the second period, and the Sonics go on an 11-0 run. Gary Payton cutting Chicago's lead to 34-23, but that was as close as they got in the first half. George Karl's team on its way to 3 straight losses for the first time all year. Luke Longley with a nice move here, and the hook. Bulls back up by 16. Longley had 19 points. All Jordan in the first half. The NBA's MVP and scoring champion scored 15 straight in one stretch for Chicago. By halftime, he had 27 points on 8 of 16 shooting from the field. Moving to the fourth quarter after we get done with Jordan's exploits, and there's Dennis Rodman playing some mind games with his good friend Frank Brickowski. And moments later, Brickowski and Rodman become entangled. Brickowski called for the flagrant foul, and he is ejected for the second time in 3 games. The Bulls take Game 3. A laugher for Michael Jordan and company, who can barely conceal their amusement, winning by a score of 108-86. And now, as promised, a conversation with Spike Lee. Let's have our producer Rick Diamond tell me who spoke with him. Naturally, Jim Gray. Jim Gray speaks with everybody. There he is.
Joined by Spike Lee. Spike, we know that you're a big New York Knicks fan, but you're also very close to Michael Jordan. Sitting in these stands, you travel all over. What is your thought process, and how do you feel about just watching these games? One of your best friends playing, and he's on the verge now of making history, coming back after a couple years off.
I feel good for Mike, but I'm disappointed in Seattle. They didn't show nothing tonight. Nothing.
No fight, really, did they? They didn't come out with much energy or much anticipation of getting back in this series, did they?
I thought they were going to show me more than that, man, but it's over now. They're coming out for blood Wednesday night. So I just watched it on television because it's done deal.
What did you expect when the Sonics come out tonight? I know you talked to several of the players. Did you expect that they would be able to get back into this series, or knowing Michael as you knew him and know him, did you feel that it wouldn't be much of an effort?
I thought Chicago was a win, but I thought Seattle would give them a fight, but it just rolled over tonight. I don't know what happened.
Spike, you've seen a lot of teams. You've been a basketball fan for an awful long time. How does this Chicago team compare to the other teams you've seen along the line?
They're all right.
Just all right. You're not going to give it better than your Knicks team?
No, they're a great team. They're a great team. It's just amazing to me. I think that, people are dogging the Knicks out. Well, they played Chicago hard than any team in the playoffs, and if it wasn't with Bill Oakes, they could have won Game 4.
Oh, you're not going to blame the referee for this,
The guy called 2 travels with a minute in the last minute of the game.
You're saying without that, the Knicks would be here right now?
No, I'm saying we'd have won 2 games instead of 1. But still, you got to be physical with Chicago. Other than that, man, they're going to kill you.
Are you going to spend your whole life just hoping that somebody can beat Chicago?
Hey, we get Barkley next year. We got to be. I want to be Michael before he retires.
Well, there's been a lot of talk. Do you feel as though Charles Barkley or Juwan Howard, or what is the answer coming into New York?
We're getting somebody. Reggie Miller, Allen Houston, Barkley, or Juwan. We're getting somebody. I'm going to be ready next year.
Were you happy with the decision to keep Jeff Van Gundy?
Yes, I'm glad they signed him. Don Nelson, that was the wrong move. Wrong move. And
On top of that, they're still gonna raise the ticket prices next year to $1,250. Hey, that's a lot of money for a game. That's what's that? $3,000 a game.
Somehow, I don't think you'll be canceling.
Nah, because there are people waiting for my seats. I'm gonna keep on trying.
Maybe you'll be able to cancel a little penny seat. That may be a little too much to pay.
All right.
Spike, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Good luck to you with your filmmaking. All right, let's go back to Bob Costas.
All right, Jim, Spike Lee, a very knowledgeable and passionate basketball fan, offering a harsh critique of the NBA referees of the Sonics play tonight, and some free advice to Dave Checketts and Ernie Grunfeld about the decisions coming up in the offseason for the Knicks. But, of course, he's concerned about the ever-escalating price of courtside seats at the Garden. I understand they may even make Marv pay to get in next year. Let's go to him.
And Bob, I can certainly understand that also. Spike lashing out in many directions. Getting back to what took place here tonight and in the series, of course, on Wednesday, the Chicago Bulls could make it a 4-game sweep. Let's take a look back at what has taken place over the first 3. The Bulls taking the first 2 in the Windy City as Tony Kukoc led an impressive fourth-quarter charge by Chicago in a 17-point opening game victory. Kukoc on fire, and then in game 2 was Dennis Rodman controlling the boards. 11 offensive rebounds to tie a finals record. Tonight, Michael Jordan off to the quick start, and Jordan came out, did it in the first quarter as the Bulls were able to blister the Sonics in the opening quarter, and he finished with a game high of 36 points. Michael showing the entire arsenal, finished strong, and then enjoyed watching the final minutes at the bench as Phil Jackson was able to shuffle things down the stretch. A look at Michael's performance. Not happy with what took place in games 1 and 2. They were not Jordan-like lofty numbers, but 28 and 29, not bad, and then 36 here tonight. The Bulls 50% shooting, the Sonics 45, but did not pick that up until late in the game. In the assist department, again, the Sonics falling short. Had only 10 in game 2, 14 here tonight in game 3. And look at 21 turnovers, and once again, Seattle not able to do it from downtown. Only 4 of 16 from three-point range. Matt, what is going on with Seattle's offense?
Well, I talked to George Karl before the season started, and he told me that what he was most concerned about their offense, and now I see why. It has just been terrible. During the regular season, they rely so much on getting some easy baskets from their defense. Well, you don't do that against a team like Chicago because they take care of the ball and their transition defense is good. But in the half court, Seattle is just not disciplined enough, not crisp enough, and they just don't seem to have a plan.
All right, now the Bulls get through the long layoff concern for game 1, the concern of overconfidence for game number 2, and for game number 3. What is Phil Jackson going to come up with a theme in game number 4?
Marv, for Phil Jackson and the Chicago Bulls, it's all about the challenge of being perfect. That's what Phil Jackson has meant to this Bull franchise since he took over. He's got them to this threshold. Now they've got a chance to make NBA history. Look for them to come out on fire.
All right, let's go back upstairs to Bob.
Up 3-0 in a series. You've never been down 0-3. What are your thoughts on what's going through the heads of the Bulls, the Sonics?
Been down 3, but not 0-3, and gone for the closer a couple of times in the ABA, and the series against Los Angeles in 1983. We won the 3rd game in LA. We had 2 or 3 days before it was time to play, and let me tell you, the game can't come fast enough. You get so antsy, you want to go out to playgrounds and play against kids just to keep your game sharp, and then the day comes, and if you're a good player, you know that no matter how far you're down, you're going to win that game because history is on your side.
Okay, they've got to wait about 72 hours or so, but they can go for the sweep on Wednesday. For Peter Vesey and for Dr. J and our whole crew, a reminder that game 4 of the NBA Finals, the Bulls and Sonics from Seattle, will be Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time as the Bulls try to complete the winningest season in NBA history with a sweep of the Sonics. For our entire NBC crew, Bob Costas, so long from Seattle.